All right, very good morning, everybody, from the flight deck once again. Welcome to A Pilot's Life live on Twitch with Captain Nabs here, and welcome everybody to another Sunday morning stream. Managed to have a Sunday off again, and I thought I would definitely use this time to our advantage, get some streaming done, get a flight done in our Boeing 737-800 here. I'll apologize first if anything is not quite set up correctly here, even though I actually got up early this morning, earlier than I normally would, and spent the last almost 40 minutes setting up my stream. Microsoft Flight Simulator did not want to play nice today. I realized after I had fired up the sim the first time that I did not plug in my headset. And if you try to plug in a USB device when Microsoft Flight Simulator is already running, it kills the process altogether in most cases. Sometimes it'll keep on running, but in most cases it seems to just kill the sim altogether, and you have to restart the sim. And unfortunately, it was a tedious process. It went into safe mode without me even trying to, and so I had to restart the sim a third time to get back out in here. So the sim only just finished firing up about 5 minutes ago, and I've just been sort of sitting here tinkering with a couple things. But there's a bunch of stuff I realized that is not done now that I normally would do, and I normally would have, and I should have had done because I gave myself so much time this morning. And it's so frustrating when the sim does not work the way it's supposed to. And I was reading in the forums, and people are like, "Oh, well, you know, if you plug in a headset and your sim crashes, it's a user error." I'm just thinking to myself, no. USB peripherals are kind of essential to a lot of flight simulation. Microsoft Flight Simulator should be able to handle the plugging in and unplugging of USB devices without crashing the sim altogether. It should be able to handle that kind of thing cleanly, or just not deal with USB devices at all. That just sort of blows my mind. So, and there we go. Somebody just spawned into me there. Wonderful. Is that you, Squibbly, spawning into me? Because I see the Delta colors, so that would just be hilarious. And he's gone. I'm not trying to make you feel bad if that's you. What are the odds we'd pick the same gate there in Burbank? But anyways, welcome to the stream, everybody. Sorry, I had to get that little rant off my chest because that really does bug me sometimes, the way Microsoft Flight Simulator cannot handle you plugging in a headset. If you go to fly your sim and you realize you forgot to plug in your headset so you can go fly in VATSIM, guess what? You're going to be stuck with text-only mode, because if you try to plug that in while you're flying, it's going to probably kill your sim. And oh boy, does that just really annoy the bejesus out of me. Yes, I understand that Microsoft Flight Simulator needs to do some detection things and sort of initialize USB devices perhaps and figure out what they're doing, but it should not crash the sim altogether. It should not. There will be people who will plug in peripherals, USB peripherals. There might be a shaky USB cable that might just momentarily lose connection and reconnect, and is Microsoft Flight Simulator going to crash every single time that happens? Apparently so. All right, end rant. Today's schedule. In A Pilot's Life, we are taking our Boeing 737-800, and we are starting off here at Bob Hope Burbank Airport down in sunny Southern California, and we're heading back up to the Alaska Airlines home base of Seattle. So SeaTac is our destination for today. It's going to be about a 2 hour and 40-minute flight, 3 hours hopefully in total gate to gate, and yeah, I don't even know what the cruising altitude is going to be, in all honesty here. What do we file out here? 36,000 feet. So I don't even know what the weather's going to be doing when we get to Seattle. I have not even really had a chance to check it. As I said, I've been fighting with the sim, and I hate that. Like, I even got up early and said, oh, I'm tired of always like kind of rushing around and not having the stream up and running on time when I say it's going to be up and running. And guess what? Same thing happened again today. I did not have it up and running at the time I wanted to because the sim crashed twice on me in the start process. So just what a pain in the rear end. It doesn't look like it's too bad. It is going to rain later on today in Seattle, so it's a very good chance we're going to deal with some rain. Now, as you can see, it is also nighttime here, and that kind of violates one of my big golden rules of streaming, just because it does tend to look so terrible. I thought I'd give you guys a couple of minutes here to look at the airplane here at night, because the lighting is generally pretty good in the sim, but the codecs do not do it justice when you guys are watching it online. So we're going to go ahead and take our parallel flow menu here, and we're going to go ahead and go plus 3 hours and bring on the sun. And look at that. That is much nicer. It's going to be much easier for you guys to stream and to watch. And Squibbly, yeah. What are the odds you'd pick the same gate I was at? I appreciate you moving. And that's one of the nice things, too, is that we've gotten to this point now where we can move stuff in the sim. Parallel42's Flow does have some capability. I don't even have the menu up here, but they do have their other position menu. Yeah, they do actually have it here, and you do have some capability of sort of sharing your position and doing stuff with it. But also GSX now is actually really good at this, so you can reposition aircraft, and you can actually change the gate without reloading the sim, which is something that's it's simple and silly, and yet it's been missing for so long. Like Microsoft Flight Simulator, oh, spawn at a gate where somebody else is, I got to go back to the main menu and respawn, or I can try slewing around, which is awkward at best and often does not. It does not get you where you need to be because the slewing happens so fast, you tend to overshoot everything, so you tend to not get very accurately on the gate when you do it that way. So thank you, GSX, for finally doing what Asobo could not, and that is allowing us to reposition the aircraft in the sim accurately, precisely to another start location on an airport, which is kind of, again, it's very essential when you're flying on networks like VATSIM, where you spawn onto the network, you realize, hey, I'm on top of somebody else I didn't mean to be, let me move to another gate and reconnect again. Just rather than go back to the main menu and reload everything. Let me also just check and make sure that real weather is enabled here, and time is not real time, but weather is live weather. Okay, perfect. So that is also there. Beautiful. All right, and you crashed. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That's been my morning, I'm afraid. Hopefully you can get it up and running relatively quickly. I'll just keep yakking until I see you. But yeah, nice to see you again, Squibbly. It's been a little while since we've got a chance to fly together, so it's so nice to see you again on stream. And hopefully we get a few more people to join us today for this flight from Burbank up to Seattle, because it should be a good length flight. We had a wonderful discussion last time. Dane Platts was in the channel and chatting up a storm about the A320, and we had a good long chat about the A320 along with Timber and a few other people. So I'm looking forward to it. It was funny because the last stream, it went so fast. It was a 2-hour plus flight, and we just started chatting as we sort of got above 10,000 feet, and I didn't realize we were like 50 miles from top of drop, and I had less than like 5 minutes to set up, and I'm like, I gotta get everything ready because we were just chatting so much. So hopefully those guys are able to make it again, and we'll get this flight underway. So let's see here. Let's hop in the flight deck. There we go. And I haven't done anything really, like I said, like I literally just restarted the sim, so I haven't even launched this yet. So let me launch this. I'm going to stop talking because it's going to start listening to me momentarily here. As soon as it starts. Oh, for crying out loud. There's always an update. And yeah, it's been a busy work week. I have not even had a chance to think of updates. I'm glad to be here this morning, but I haven't even had a chance to think about this. And I thought about it last night. It's like, oh, I should run some updates and run the sim, make sure it runs. And then I just did not because I went to bed instead. So, all right. So because the FO really kind of screwed the pooch on this last time, I'm going to go into the settings here. He screwed up our IRSs pretty badly. So somewhere in here, I can. I'm going to run electrical power up for the FO. So I'm going to do the electrical power up because I found the last couple times it's really kind of, the FO doing it has really kind of screwed the pooch. So we don't even have a GPU. So let's go ahead and tell PMDG to hook up our GPU here, ground services, and we need to request ground power. While we're at it, we'll set this to about 6,000. Like I said, I literally did not have a chance to do any setup. I really am more than a little annoyed because I like to kind of be slick and ready and done, and not the case at all. And I like to just sort of set a random payload and see what it puts us at. 146. Okay, that's good. All right, so now we got ground power established, so we can go ahead and throw the battery on. Ground power on, get some power flowing to this aircraft. And then we'll just do a couple of things here. We'll just make sure these are in nav. Test the flight recorder. And the overspeed. Check all the engine controls while we're up there, and then we'll do this. Let's start setting up.
Roger.
Hopefully he does not mess with the IRSs again. Alright, I'm going to let him do a few things here. And let's just check a couple things here. First of all, make sure that we are connected to VATSIM. I guess we must be because I saw you. And make sure that my tracker is started correctly. Yeah, that's all started correctly. This is started correctly. It does recognize the stage where it is connected to the simulator, so that's good. Okay, good. So all my trackers are all running here. And I don't know what he's doing or what he's waiting for. But we can go ahead and get started in this. And I don't even have my tablet ready. I don't even have myself on stream here. So give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna grab my tablet. Because I do find that data entry is so much nicer with a tablet. With the FMC where you're typing and typing and typing and typing and typing. Okay. And the other thing, of course, I did forget to do as well is I forgot to start up my FMS server. So now I could use my FMS, and I haven't thrown myself up here, so let me just do that because I always forget that's the button there. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to try and make this as professional as possible, but it seems like today I am just behind the 8 ball, despite the fact that I got up more than 2 hours before the stream started, which is normally more time than I give myself. And still, just not coming together. Not my morning here. All right, this guy does not seem to want to do anything. I thought we were doing like a... Let's start... Yeah, no, the timer's there. See, I'm just looking here. The timer's going, but he's not doing any of the pre-flight flow here. So let's go ahead and go through this. Let's make sure we've got the window heats are heating up. We've got the emergency... Is he down just starting to do it? Oh, now he turned the IRSs off. Oh, you... If they're on, just leave them on. And they're still stuck in align mode. That's the funny thing, too. All right. Oh, there you go. He turned them off. He turned them back to align. On DC. Come on, you stupid track IR. Let's do this. Okay, they are on align. Okay, he's finally doing it. So there we go. Now we should be able to get these to align. Hopefully we do not get an IR flag again like we did last time, but I think this time it's going to work, I hope. And we can start getting into this here. So let's just bring up the FMS there. Let's bring up the flight plan on the other page here for our our Burbank to Seattle flight here. And there's our route, so let's get this route going. Give me 1 moment to pull it up here. I like to have all this stuff ready, and I just feel like a...
I'm heading out for the walk around.
Roger. Feel like a bit of an idiot because it's not ready, but there we go. Now it's all ready. I've got my tablet here, so it's a lot easier to type on. And hopefully you guys can read this here. If I just blow this up a little more, it might make it a little bit easier to read it. Anyways, it's a fairly straightforward route here. So we are at KBUR Burbank. And we are going to KSEA, which is SeaTac. Our flight number today, that's an excellent question. What is our flight number? Our flight number today is, if I could just move this out of the way, there we go, Alaska 1498. Alaska 1498, and there we go, departing Burbank today. So we don't have any ATC online, not terribly surprising, given that it is pretty early in the morning, especially on the West Coast, and I kind of wanted to do the stream a little later, but I've got stuff to do today, so it was kind of a now or never kind of deal, so here we are. Winds 090 at 3, so we should be able to depart 08, and the Oros 2, the Castro transition, and put that in the route, page 2, there we go. Alright, after that we go direct to Shimmer. We go direct to LKV, I think that's Lakeview. And then from Lakeview, we do the Hawks 7 arrival to Seattle. So very straightforward flight plan today, at least. Very quick to set this up. And you know what I haven't done, actually, as I'm thinking about it here, is I have not yet called for refueling or anything else for that matter. Sure.
Refueling truck is on its way.
All right.
Please don't load aircraft until the fuel truck arrives and ask to do it.
All right, so back to the FMS Hawk 7. The estimate is for the 16, so we'll do Hawk 7, 16 both, Lakeview transition, and 16 center or 16 right. We don't usually land 16 left, so I'm going to go with 16 center. I don't know what the transition is, so I'm just going to leave the transition off. We will deal with that when we get there. So, yeah, ILS 16 center. We've got the Hawk 7 arrival. There we go. I just activated it. Off to the permanent page. Check our ZFW on here. 128.6. Our reserves back on page 1. 4.9, pretty much 5,000 for the reserve for our alternate of Portland, which would be fine to go to. Cost index is up here at the top. It's 10. And our cruise level here, 360. Thought I silenced my phone. Apparently I did not do that either.
Hi, the security and safety check are all done. Are we good to start boarding?
Yes.
Thanks.
All right. And we will tell GSX to do the same thing. All right. Distractions. Where were we? We did altitude cruise wind. That's what we were at. 245 at 60. And it's a non-stop process. I'll tell you this. In the real world, it's a non-stop process. Crews are constantly being interrupted during their setup. It takes a lot of kind of discipline to get through the setup process when you have constant interruptions. The fuel guy drops something off. The flight attendant has some information. The ramp guys want to tell you something. There's always people's, operations is calling you on the radio. There's always people trying to talk to you and give you information and tell you things that, I mean, it's not that communicating is not a good thing, but you're trying to go through the setup process, and sometimes you stop the setup process like 8-10 times, and you're like, okay, where do we leave it off? Can we remember where we left it off, or do we have to start all over again here? All right, so I'm going to do a takeoff. I'll try a takeoff 1, climb 1, and let's just give it a couple of degrees here. Let's give it 28 degrees. Not particularly warm, but it's also a relatively short runway here in Burbank, so let's see if that will give me some numbers. I'm going to use a lower flap setting. It did give me some numbers just because there is terrain off the departure end, so I know that we're going to need to do a turn pretty quickly and get some good performance. So lower flap settings are good for climb performance. So flap 5.
Fuel truck is in position.
Flaps 2 would even work.
Please don't load aircraft until the fuel truck arrives. Please use your airplane fuel system to set the desired fuel quantity.
Yeah, you can actually use flaps 1. We use up a lot of runway, but we'll climb really steeply, so let's do flaps 1 if we can get away with it. All right, so now they want to get our fuel quantity here for this trip. Fuel quantity today, we're looking for a block fuel of 18.6, so we're just going to run that up to 18.8. There we go. Verify takeoff speeds. It does seem to think that we can still do it flaps 1 with takeoff 1, climb 1, so that's good. That's good. We're not totally full of gas. We're not totally gross weight, but we're getting kind of heavy there. But not terrible at the end of the day. Okay. I think that's everything set up in the FMS. Let's circle back here. Hopefully the FO, I don't think the FO has come back yet, so we probably shouldn't do too much of the overhead flow without him. But what we can start doing at least is start setting up our charts while we're waiting for the FO to come back, make sure everything's ready. Yeah, distraction is a real pain, and it's a real issue in this business, and there's always something to distract you, especially during the setup process. There's hundreds of things happening, fueling and loading, passengers, catering, maintenance might have to be doing something. Just dozens and dozens of things happening, and people trying to communicate with you, and it can be very, very difficult to stay on task sometimes. It absolutely can be very difficult to stay on task. All right, let's see here. So the Burbank, Seattle, yeah, that's all good. All right, we've got the Oros 1 departure, or Oros 2 departure here, so that's good. Let's just have a look at this departure here. Should be a top altitude on it. Top altitude is flight level 230. Okay, that's pretty good top altitude there. All right. Well, we're still waiting for the FO to come back, I think. I don't think I heard him come back. Unable 270 at Hawks. We'll disregard that for now. Let's just check this against the flight plan here. So it's a 079 track for 08, climbing right turn, heading 210 as assigned by ATC. So 079 till we get to 1180,
I'm
which should
back.
be 400 feet.
There are
he
no
is.
issues on the walk around. Good aeroplane.
Really? GSX has given up on me now too? Oh, for crying out loud. We try and do professional streams, and this is what happens. 210 vector. From there, we expect a vector over towards Tiller. We're going to just kind of self-vector ourselves in that direction. Tiller above 8,000, Oro's above 9,000. And then for us to go to Castro, we have to go to Hajo first and then Castro. So that's all in there. 230 is the top altitude. We don't have any ATC online, so we're not going to have to get a clearance from anybody else. So I'll get rid of that for now. Put it into 230. And the heading is 079 off the runway. We saw that in the FMS, so we'll get that on there. And we'll set the speed. For your speed. V2 is 154. 154. Oh, that's what I was trying to get the auto thrust. I was trying to get the flight directors on. There we go. Flight directors are on. Looks like everything's initialized, so we should be able to depart LNAV, VNAV. Just makes it easier. We don't even have to crank the heading bug around. It'll just do it for us. That makes life easier. All right, let's just put this on a little bit so we can see a little bit what we're doing here. So quick overhead flow, make sure everything is where it should be. We do have some nav mode. We did see that the RSs were aligned properly. Service center phones off. All the engine controls are in their normal position. EECs are on. And we should be able to do the stall test at this point as well. You see the backup gear displays are all green. And the FO should have probably done all this by now, but let's just verify it. We get the yaw dampers are on. All the navigation selectors are all normal, centered. Fuel pumps, we don't have any just yet, but we'll get them going in a minute. And ground pump. Ground power is good. Let's see here, standby power is off. The IDGs are connected.
Hi, here's the fuel slip.
Thanks.
Welcome. Have a nice flight.
All right, donate generators. We could probably start thinking about getting that that APU running if the fuel guy has come and gone and he's no longer connected to the airplane because there's no GSX whatsoever. And let's just see if we can get GSX to restart here. I don't even know why, what it would have thought that was incompatible with. And all we're going to do now at this point, we're going to say that it's done boarding. We're just going to request pushback because that's what I really need it for. The boarding is just sort of a superfluous fun, but I really kind of need to push back. Alright, so the APU is starting. While that's starting, equipment cooling's normal. Seatbelts, we've done fueling, so we can go ahead and put the seatbelts on. Wipers are off. He's got the ignition on right, that's fine. She's on, probes are off. Case off. Hydraulic panel is all set up. Test the CVR, we've got no doors open anymore. Apparently we're done. CVR test is good. All packs are, stationary fans are auto, packs are auto, the isolation valve is open. APU looks like it started. Go ahead and get the APU bleed on, 36,000 feet, lights are good. Alright, and I guess we need an altimeter setting, 3017. What have we got? Air conditioning. And we got dual bleed on. That's fine because we don't actually have the engines running yet. So 3017, 3017, love it. Alright. Got LNAV, we got VNAV, 154 says 23, good. Test all the lights in the flight deck. Make sure there's no burnt out light bulbs. Nope, it's all good. Tested. He's got RTO. I think we're just about ready to go here by the looks of it. Lighting's fine. GPWS switches are all guarded. Guess we should park break on at some point. Didn't hear him do the test on this, so let's just test the fire detection system. Make sure we have Unicom up. Alright. EDF, panel lighting's fine for now. Worry about the weather radar, and it's just at 2000 for generic code right now. There we go. Alright. Okay, I think everything's good. Pre-flight checklist.
Pre-flight checklist. Oxygen.
Tested 100%.
Tested 100%. Navigation, transfer, and display switches. Normal, auto. Window heat, on. Pressurization mode selector, auto. Flight instruments.
Heading 114, altimeter 3017.
Heading 114. Altimeter 3017. Parking brake.
Set.
Engine start levers.
Cut off.
Pre-flight checklist completed.
Are you ready for the departure briefing?
Go ahead.
Alright. 1 second, let me sip my coffee again here before I start chatting. Burbank 8, this info X-ray, overcast 24, 12 degrees, 11 degrees, ILS, 0.8. Really? Again? Alright, fine. Well, I don't think we're going to get that, so we'll do our second possibility here. And it's good to have backups in this business. Pushback Express, I haven't used it in a while, but let's use it. All right, in the meantime, we are parked over here. Okay, yes. There's critical updates of everything. It's like there was a critical update like 3 days ago, and there's another one since then. Like, crying out loud, I can't log in and check these things like every single minute of every single day. Okay, so we're at Gate Bravo 3 here, Burbank. We're departing 08, so push back, and it should be able to taxi along Charlie. Nope, we can't. Aircraft with wingspan greater than 79 feet restricted from using taxiway Charlie west of Charlie 8. So we can't do that, so we got to go the long way around. Aircraft with wingspan greater than 95 feet require taxi instructions from ATC for runway 33 departure, yeah. Taxiway Gulf, 95 feet or less. So it looks like we're going to have to go push back and probably go across here. And then we can either go down Charlie to Charlie 8 or we can cross anywhere here at one of these taxiways here. So let's plan on going Charlie 6 Bravo across there to Delta. Because this is a very compact airport. Like, our airline operations actually here are a little bit challenging. Aircraft are taxiing southbound past Bravo 1 on terminal ramp. Aircraft is using caution to use taxi in the terminal area due to close proximity to terminal. Personal ground equipment in the area. Cross speeds are prohibited in all non-movement areas. ATC approved. Cross speed starts on taxiway Alpha north of Delta. Other requests must be recorded. 26 close for takeoff to jet aircraft with 4 or more engines. Okay, so yeah, so it's going to be a little bit of a convoluted taxi route just because of the wingspan restrictions. I'm not sure exactly what the wingspan is on 37, but I think you're talking in the neighborhood of 118 feet, anyways. Certainly, probably 112 feet, 110 feet, something around there. 79 foot restriction is definitely not going to apply to us. So yeah, we're going to take the convoluted route to get out there. All right, when we finally get out there, we're going to be doing the Oros 2 RNAV departure. Plate 10-3 alphas, radar required, DPI or GPS required, RNAV 1. Speed maintain at or below 250 knots unless otherwise directed by ATC. So we have to stay at 250 knots, even above 10,000 feet until we get clearance from ATC. There's no ATC right now, so it probably will be okay, but let's just, we'll keep it at 250 till we're absolutely sure there's going to be no ATC. And as I said, runway 8, climbing right turn heading 210 is assigned by ATC, flight level, top altitude flight level 230, that's all in the box already, and expect vectors to cross Tiller at above 8,000, then on track 324 across Orals at above 9,000, then on transition, maintain flight level 230, expect filed altitude 10 minutes after departure. That's it, there's no other special notes on the plan. We confirmed the routing in the FMS, so that's all good. Terrain obviously is an issue around this airport. There is a high hill off the departure end of this runway, hence the initial turn. We'll make sure that we're using a low flap setting. We'll have a long takeoff roll, but we should get a very good climb rate right after departure, and we'll just start that turn at 400 feet with the FMS. It is already in LNAV mode. You can see LNAV is armed. And as we head northbound, there is higher terrain up to well into 9,000 feet, maybe more, and that's probably part of the reason why we have these altitude crossing restrictions here. That's probably also airspace related. But as long as we hit those altitude restrictions, we should clear the terrain on our climb out northbound. All right, weather is, it's an overcast day. It's good enough to get back in. It's broken at 900 feet. It's not great, but it's good enough to get back in on zero if we had to. That being said, given that it's a very short runway here in Burbank, for any kind of major emergency, we'll just divert to LAX. So if we have an engine failure or something major, hydraulic failure after departure, we won't even consider coming back to Burbank. We'll just go over to LAX. All right. And NOTAMs, just a quick check of the NOTAMs here for Burbank, and then we're good to go. So NOTAMs, Burbank, thanks for Charlie, 08555, it's 100% wet. Okay, good to know. We'd enter that into performance calculations if it allowed it, and hopefully when we get this long-awaited EFB in here, it'll have wet and dry calculations as well. SID, takeoff minimums, Oros 2, takeoff minimums from runway 8, 301, and we do have 910, so we're good there. Takeoff, temporary obstacle, runway 8, temporary crane, 1453 for departure into runway 775 feet right at the center line, 200 feet AGL. We should clear that. And I think that's all that really impacts us. So there we go. So we're good to go. Any questions?
No questions.
All right. So since our GSX is just kind of pooped on us here. Yeah, you checked that he pooped on us. It's pooped out on us here. We're going to assume that the loading is done. We're going to make sure that I guess we should probably get the APU on the bus first. And then we can go ahead and, what am I looking for here? No, I'm looking for FS actions, ground services. Let's just eliminate all ground services. So get rid of that air stair. There they go. Get rid of everybody. I see you over there in the corner. They're pushing their squibbly, so perfect timing. Great. And there you go. And I got you 5x5. How about me?
5x5, thank you very much.
Perfect. Okay, love it. Yeah, got everything ready to go here. Just trying to think of making sure I'm not missing anything, but I think we were good, so. Ramp from the flight deck. Flight deck to ground.
Go ahead, flight deck.
We will be ready in a minute.
Roger.
And that should trigger. No? No, what are you doing? Stop, pushback. What are you doing here? I didn't say push, I said we'll be ready. Oh my god. None of these add-ons are doing anything they're supposed to today. I don't even have the tug hooked up. That command, we will be ready in a minute, is just supposed to get the tug hooked up, so it's ready for the pushback. Oh my god. I am getting ready to lose my cool on this sim. I'm trying to keep the swearing to a minimum on these channels here. Keep them family and ad friendly. All right. Before start checklist.
Stand by.
And Captain Michael, yes, it is a 737. It's 800, so we definitely have a good 110-foot wingspan. I'm not sure exactly what it is on this aircraft. I could look it up, but I know it's definitely more than 79 feet anyways. Before start checklist. Before start checklist. I can see you sitting there trying to run it, and I don't know why you're not running it. Oh my god. I am single pilot today, apparently. Drive me up the wall here. Grab my own checklist then, because apparently I am not going to get any assistance from FS2 crew today, or GSX, or anybody. Before start checklist. Screw you then. Flight deck door is closed and locked. Navigation
Checked. VNav.
Well, you never said shit, so. Before start checklist. Fuel. We've got 18,800 pounds and the pumps are on. Passenger signs on. Dome light a little bit on here so we can see what we're doing. Get these panel lights on here because it's still dark, even though it's morning. It's dark here. Passenger signs are on. Windows are locked. MCP, so we've got V2154 heading 079 altitude, flight level 230. Takeoff speeds V1 146, VR 147, V2 154. The CDU pre-flight is complete. Rudder and aileron trim were checked and 0. Taxi and takeoff briefing is completed. Anti-collision light is on. Before start checklist is complete. Flight deck to ground. Did it kill it altogether? To say the least, some days this sim is absolutely exasperating. Flight deck to ground.
Go ahead, flight deck.
We are ready for pushback and engine start.
Roger. Release the parking brakes, please.
Brakes are off.
Pushing back.
And once again, we have this IRS message that came up last time. Now he's not going to push back. Really?
Hey guys, all packs are on board. Are we clear to close?
Go for it. Yes. Yes. Cleared to close, short taxi. Cleared to close, short taxi. Yes. Oh my god, I'm going to kill this thing. I'm just shutting it down. I just give up on you. I give up on all FS2 crew products today. Apparently, we are going to do this with some very basic stuff here. I'm just about to lose my cool on all of this FS2 crew stuff because none of it wants to work today. Yes, I did run an update. I can't run an update every single second of every single day. You guys have got to get with the program in that one. Alright, we're aiming for that parking spot right there. That's as close as I'm going to get, I think. Alright, brakes are set, and we'll go ahead and start engines because I'm doing this on my own. Starting engine 1. And yeah, he didn't do any of this shit, did he? No, he did not. Alright, well, let's start and see if we can't restart this again. Maybe it'll work the second time around because the first time it did not want to work. Normally I'm a big fan of FS2 crew, and just lately it's been a bit of a tear. It can't seem to get any shit right anymore. Yeah, I won't say that. I'm being a little overly critical, but the number of times you have to repeat yourself to trigger the scripts is ridiculous these days. Entry of transponder should be on. Getting more than a little annoyed that we're going to be doing this single pilot essentially because FS2 crew just does not want to do anything anymore. And is a constant problem with FS2 Crew in the 737 version. It hears you and it recognizes the text and it does not trigger anything. All right, looks like we got a stable start on number 1. Let's go ahead and start engine 2. Yeah, in previous iterations, FS2 Crew has been pretty good. Even all the previous iterations of Microsoft Flight Simulator software, it's been really good, but this 737 version is just something else altogether. It all the time, the script just hangs up altogether and does not continue, doesn't let you do anything. It just sort of sits there, hangs there, recognizes the text you're saying as being the correct text, but then it does not trigger any response from the software. And it's sometimes you can repeat yourself 2 or 3 times and eventually it picks up on it, but sometimes it just hangs completely. And this was not nearly the problem in the P3D era. In the P3D era, FS2 Crew was generally pretty reliable, didn't have a whole lot of issues, but in the MSFS era, it's just been abysmal. Alright, I didn't hear the click, but it does appear that it did switch back to off here. And especially the 737 version has been just the worst version of all. It really has. Alright. And it keeps triggering, and I don't know what FS2 Crew keeps doing, but it keeps causing this IRS light to come up too. After start checklist.
Strobes coming on.
That's not what I freaking said. After start checklist. Before taxi procedure.
Stand by.
There, maybe he'll get caught up to me now. There, now he's doing it again. Hopefully he'll stay caught up with us there. As frustrated as not even beginning to describe my mental state at this point. I think I left you enough room to get by there. Yeah, frustrated is not even beginning to describe my mental state at this point. The FS2 Crew especially here, and then GSX at the same time. Everything just sort of crashing all at once. It really is driving me up the wall here. Before taxi checklist.
Before taxi checklist. Generators on. Propane on. Anti-ice off. Isolation valve auto. Engine start switches. Continuous. Recall.
Checked.
Checked. Auto brake. RTO. Engine start levers.
Idle detent.
Flight controls.
Flight control check. Full up. Neutral. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Neutral. Full right. Neutral. And I don't think these ones have. No. Full left. Full right. Neutral. Complete. Checked.
Ground equipment.
Clear.
Clear. Before taxi checklist complete.
Taxi light on.
Checked.
Taxi light on. Set taxi light on.
Taxi light on.
Oh my god. Burbank traffic, Alaska 1486 at Gate Bravo 3 will be taxiing across runway 33 and cross 33 Bravo, cross 08 Charlie to get to the runway 08. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. What? Ah! It feels like the chocks are still on this aircraft, even though I removed everything. Chocks are removed. Why can I not get this thing moving here? Oh, I think I know why. I think the invisible tug is still connected. Let's try that. There we go. Wow. I am this close to rage quitting this whole thing right now just because it's been such a coach show trying to get this going here. VATSIM traffic, Alaska 1486 is on the apron taxiing Charlie crossing runway 33, Bravo crossing 808 Delta for departure 208. Minimal power, yes, I know. Just as little power as possible to keep this airplane rolling. Ah, wow. There are days where you just don't even want to. There are days where I'm just this close to giving up on this whole stream here. If it wasn't enjoyable to actually do this, I'd give up on it. Because the software is not playing nice today and is not making this experience particularly pleasant to this point. Traffic, Alaska 1486 is crossing runway 8. Set strobes to on.
Strobes coming on.
Alright, we got the squibbly holding on the left there. Across there, and you can see that mountain off the end of the runway there that we're going to have to watch out for. Try not to hit that on departure, please.
Traffic right.
Set strobe off.
Strobes going off.
Alright.
Checked.
Try and enjoy this from here on out because boy, what a... Oh, where'd you go? Don't tell me your sim crashed again. Oh dear God, no. You were there. Oh, you are there still. Actually, you just said the lights were off for a second. The lights were gone, so it's like it didn't look like you were there for a second. Alright, taxi past the good old Millionaire. On trees and hangars. I don't think the cabin's called secured yet. I don't know if it's going to because FS True Crew I restarted it, so it's probably completely out of sync. Has no idea what it's doing anymore. Alright, the other thing we did do, of course, is we did set the flaps. Flaps 1. Hopefully the flaps stay set at 1 this time because last time when we departed, all of a sudden the Sims found my flaps axis and moved the flaps back to 0 just as we were taxiing up to the runway. Unbeknownst to me until I got the takeoff warning. At least the takeoff warning triggered. Alright, I'm a-coming. Before takeoff checklist.
Before takeoff checklist. Flaps.
Flaps 1, green light. Flaps 1, green light.
Stabilizer trim.
.0 units.
Before takeoff checklist complete.
Alright, so before we get going here, I'm just going to stop and take a breath. Cause
Checked.
you know what? F you. I'm so tired of this. Alright. It's going to be a good stream, right? Just just need to like take a little breath, and sometimes you honestly just need this moment too. You just need to just like regroup, gather your thoughts, clear your head of all the frustration to this point, because it's not going to help you when you're flying if you're frustrated. You just need to just sort of everything that's happened till this point, and sometimes the real world is like this. Departure, just getting an airplane going can be a very frustrating experience when one thing after another seems to go wrong, and just when you think you fixed everything, something else goes wrong. Everything's finally ready, the airplane's fixed, and the plane's loaded and fueled, and everything's ready, and then the catering truck breaks down literally behind your airplane, and they have to wait for a tow truck to come and get it out. You're just like, we just want to go. We just want to get this going here. But sometimes you just need this serenity now moment. You just need to take a breath. So, all right. Don't need FS2 crew from here on out really that badly. It's nice to have them, but I can get by without them, so I can ignore their faults. GSX I really don't need for the airborne portion of the flight, so I can ignore the fact that that's not working as well. And we can just go on and just have a good flight back to Seattle. All right. Just need that momentary psych myself up there. Burbank traffic, Alaska 1498 is taking position runway 8 for departure. Right turn out northwestbound to Seattle. Runway entry procedure.
Okay. Cabin crew, take your seats. Clear on the approach.
Clear on the left.
The cabin is still not secure. Clear right.
Yeah, they are. Takeoff.
Thrust set. knots. V1, rotate.
Gear up.
Gear up.
Thank you.
400 feet.
Perfect traffic.
LF.
Delta 222,
Checked.
8,000 feet on route on the oil 2, lap 1200 feet.
N1.
Checked.
Autopilot on.
Checked.
Flaps 0.
Speed check. Flaps up set.
Check. Back to this really lousy performance here. Really stuttery. It's got to be the
Standby.
scenery on Burbank here. No way. Don't like it more if it's
049 set.
Alright, that should be high enough there. Do direct tiller. Execute that. There's L now, so there's the turn. Unable to 70 knots at Hawks, probably because of our low cost index. That's fine. We'll deal with that when we get to Hawks. And what we will do, though, is we will do speed intervention to keep it at 250 as per the SID instructions for now. We got flight level 230, so we're established on course. Got our speed set to 250 for the departure for now, so we don't accelerate when we get to 10,000 feet. without permission from ATC. There is no ATC online, so we'll be able to do it anyways. And we're just watching the temperature as well. TAT's still plus 13, so we're okay to leave the anti-ice off for now. Hopefully we'll break out of this cloud layer here shortly. We kind of saw the top there briefly, so I think we're going to break out of it momentarily here. But all right. Well, I made the turn. If you're referring to me, I made the turn at 400 feet. The LNAV made the turn for me at 210. Just wanted to get some altitude before we turn any further. Probably should have had the terrain up on this one here. Fuel. And that's because we've got no pressure in the center pumps because there was so little in the center pumps to start with. The center tank to start with. Alright, so we have made it above the cloud deck and the TAT is just falling plus 10 now, so perfect. We don't need the anti-ice at all. Might as well turn off the other center tank pump because it's not doing us any good here. There's 0 fuel left in the center tank pump as far as we can tell. Alright, well we're definitely made 8,000 above Tiller and 9,000 above Oros. So those are fine.
Happy to release the cabin.
Go for it.
Okay.
See, now he's listening fine, but like, oh my god, earlier he just wasn't paying any attention to what I was saying.
Portable electronic devices may now be used with the exception
And how
of TVs,
frustrating that
radios,
is.
two-way transmitters,
How
or any
truly
other
frustrating it
device
is when
that
your
as these
crew
devices
members
may
do not
interfere
listen
with
to
the
you.
aircraft's communication and navigation systems.
Yeah, I'm at least 25 miles to the set. See, and that's the thing is you got to be conscious about what you're doing. Like, it's one thing to have everything programmed in the LNAV on departure, but you also still have to be monitoring it and saying, okay, what is it doing for me? Yes, it took me on a 210 heading, so I didn't hit that hill. But as soon as I'm high enough, we got to get ourselves turned on course. So I guess I'm going to beat you back to Seattle now. And
traffic morning, Delta 2253.
we still do not have any ATC online, so we're going to take away the speed intervention and let the aircraft accelerate to its planned climb speed here. We're also going to set the altitude to our cruise altitude now since we don't have any ATC 36. There we go, 360. We are now 9 miles from Tiller and going. Okay, that departure wasn't too bad other than the fact that it got a little stuttery there. And now it seems to be smooth as silk again here, so it's got to be that Burbank scenery. I don't know if it's the Burbank scenery or something in California there. I might try doing a flight on my own disabling that Burbank scenery because it's really nice looking scenery. But I feel like that might be what's killing it. Because the same thing happened on the arrival of the Burbank on the last stream when our frame rate turned into just like a slideshow. I didn't have a frame rate monitor up, but we were definitely counting like a single digit in terms of frame rate. So now it's perfectly smooth, and even if I sit here with my track IR, which does tend to kind of create a lot of performance penalties because you're suddenly changing the direction you're looking at, it's still smooth as silk. I know it's kind of distracting the way I'm looking around there, but I'm just trying to sort of test it out, just make sure that, like, yeah, it's a little tiny hesitation if you look completely 180 degrees behind you, but at least when you're looking in front of you, the performance is there. Yeah, that was a little annoying, but it wasn't as bad. The arrival was even worse. The frame rate went to just like, it was pathetic what the frame rate was. So I'm going to say it's probably that Burbank scenery. I think I'm not going to go back to Burbank anymore. I think it's that scenery, and it's really nice scenery. It's the Orbex Burbank version 2 actually, but it's really nice scenery. But if it penalizes your frame rate that much, is it really worth it? And I think the answer is probably no. All right, we don't need the flood lighting on. We don't need the FDS flood. That's what we don't need. That. All right, it's nice and daylighty at least right now. And away we go. All right. So we're underway. Make sure, I never really did double check, but make sure the tracker is tracking us here. And yeah, you can see it is tracking the fact that we departed Burbank. It's a minute or so behind here in its map updates, but it is tracking. It does recognize the fact that we are in transition to from cruise, so that's good. And there is standard, so transition set standard is set, and cross-checked. And away we go to Seattle. So let's just have a quick little look here. Seattle landing at 1908 Zulu, so that is 2 hours from now. That's not too bad. That's a pretty good quick flight. And away we go. So good chance now to chat about what's going on in flight sim world, and I guess probably part of the reason I'm having these issues is that this week there was a new update to Microsoft Flight Simulator, and it was the first, what is it called? The Aircraft and Avionics update. Aircraft and Avionics Update 1, which basically does what it says. It updates the avionics and the aircraft themselves. It's not about the updating the scenery. It's not so much a base sim as it is working on the aircraft specifically and the avionics within them. And I've got to say, so I kind of read through the change list, so I decided to do a one flight earlier this week when I had a chance in the TBM, because that was one of the featured aircraft that had the improved avionics. Basically, for those of you that don't know, and well, probably most of you do, but Asobo basically hired Working Title about, well, I guess probably was about like 6-9 months, maybe even a year ago at this point, to come in and fix up the avionics within the simulator itself. So Working Title was a group that for a while was creating mods for Microsoft Flight Simulator that improved various aspects of the simulator. They had the CJ4 mod, which was really, really good. It took what was a really lousy airplane, the default built-in CJ4 was really a terrible airplane. It looked great, but the operation was terrible. The fuel burn was so far out to lunch it wasn't even funny, so you couldn't even do flights it was supposed to do because of the fuel burn was so far out to lunch. The avionics were, again, a very laughable. You know, it's supposed to have a Primus, I think it's a Primus Epic FMS system, and the replica that was created by Asobo within the sim was just garbage. It was laughable. You could not do anything with it other than just follow along the flight plan that you preset on the flight screen. You couldn't reprogram stuff. You couldn't change stuff en route. It was just garbage. So they took that great original model, and much like Fly-by-Wire did with the 320, they made a vastly improved aircraft performance model so that the engines and the fuel burn were much more realistic. They made they updated the avionics so they were much more realistic. They updated a number of systems, but those were kind of the two key features. Was like the engine performance and fuel burn modeling was just completely out to lunch. So they really fixed that up and made that much more accurate to real life. It may not have been perfect, but it was definitely accurate after that for good reason. And yeah, the avionics update, which made it a great plane to fly. And honestly, it's become one of my favorite planes to fly in FS economy because it can go a decent distance at a decent speed and haul a decent amount. It's not a huge cargo hauler, but usually FS economy, you're mostly not dealing with big loads. You're dealing with 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 people loads. So fine, corporate jet can easily do that. Distance sometimes anywhere up to 1,000 miles can suddenly net you like a pretty good windfall in FS economy. So I was using that airplane a lot in FS economy, and it was a great aircraft. And Working Title also came out with an update for a lot of the other avionics. I can't remember exactly what it was for. If it was just the GNS 430, if it was the Garmin G1000, G3000 systems as well. But they came up with a number of avionics updates that really vastly improved the avionics over the very basic version that Asobo had created, which kind of looked good on the screen, but had no functionality, had no depth. You couldn't really change stuff once you were en route. You were just stuck with the flight plan you had preset. So even if you get cleared direct somewhere halfway down the route, your best bet was to kind of go into heading mode, just sort of roughly go direct, because there was no direct function in these GPS systems. And that's part of the major function of these GPS systems is the ability to have a lot of flexibility with navigation. It's not just to follow you from point to point, but to change that along the way, be able to navigate directly to any point in space at any time, not just follow the route blindly. So Working Title did that, and I guess Asobo sat up and paid so much attention and said, you guys did such a good job that they actually offered them, they basically brought them on board as developers. So now that's basically what they did. Was certainly, I don't know so much about the aircraft aspect itself, but the avionics aspect, a lot of that work that went into this update to Microsoft Flight Simulator that came out this week, the avionics and aircraft update, was a result of Working Title having direct access to the sim and making this available to everybody without download, not as a mod, but as the basic base level model of the sim. So I took the TBM up for a flight to play with it, and I have to say, first of all, the avionics, it looks a lot better. The visuals look a lot better, but then when you start to get the functionality of it too, it's fully functional at this point, as best as I could tell. I couldn't really break the functionality of it anyways. I tried to do a few different things, playing with things, trying to see what it could do, trying to see if I could force something to not work, just to see what the capabilities are, what the limits were, and it is extremely capable now. So this this first avionics and aircraft update really, I hesitate to use the word game changer because I always feel like that's an overused phrase, but it really in a lot of the aircraft, it seems like a complete and total overhaul of the avionics, and they are a lot more flexible, a lot more realistic, a lot more functional than they ever were before. At least from what I could tell. I only did one experimental flight with a TPM, but it was like night and day. The ability to mess around with the flight plan, and there's even more than just the flight plan. They even had systems pages up there for the TPM, which I imagine are probably in the real airplane. I have never actually flown the TPM, so I don't know, but I imagine they're in the real airplane. They were never there before, but they are there now as an option. You can go look at them. You can see what's powering the electrical system. It's very basic. The TPM's got pretty basic systems overall, so it's not like it's a crazy synoptic page, but you get a basic overview of what the different systems are and how they're functioning. And that was great. So I'm happy to see that's come out now. I have a feeling that's what broke some of these add-ons, though, is that whatever other updates got tweaked along the way required an update of FS2 Crew and GSX, and I have not had the time. I have worked so much this week, it's not even funny. This is why, for those of you watching the YouTube channel there, I just literally yesterday put out the stream from last week. Published the stream from last week on YouTube yesterday because I finally got around to finishing it up. I kind of did it in fits and spurts throughout the week, but I ended up working so much. I put in 28 hours in the last 5 days, which is a ridiculous amount of flying. Not something I'm used to, and certainly it creates long days, crazy times. So I've been getting up. I got up early the last 3 days, and in fact did the red eye the one day on, I can't remember what day it was, but did the red eye the one day. So I went to bed at I tried to stay acclimatized to my local time, so I went to bed at what would have been 8 p.m. my local time, and then got back up again at basically midnight and stayed up all night and did the red eye and came back and slept a little bit. But just getting up at weird crazy hours, super early. The last 2 days have been not super early, but early enough. Definitely, up before 5 a.m. To get ready to go to work. I'm not used to that. I'm not totally used to that, and exhausting. And that was part of kind of why I got up early today. Was I went to bed super early last night. I was just absolutely wiped by the time I got home after these last 5 days of work. So I was wiped. So I like to kind of relax, unwind, maybe watch some TV or play some computer games in the evening. But I just everyone else started going to bed. The kids started going to bed. I'm just I am so tired. I kind of started walking downstairs. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm so exhausted. I just have to go to bed. So normally I was thinking about actually doing a flight last night, and I probably would have run the simulator and seen all these things were not updated, because I haven't run the simulator I've run the simulator once since the update. I played with the TBM, and that was it. The day that it came out, I played with the TBM that day, and then I haven't touched it since. I haven't even had a chance to think about it really since. It's been so busy with work, which is not a terrible thing. It's nice to be busy. It's nice to be working, making money, but at the same time, just it's exhausting. I'm back to where I was before, exhausted. Not so bad when I'm at work, but on the drive home, and you sort of get home and you just sort of sit down for a few minutes, and you're just like, wow, that was a long day. I did a lot, and I'm just done. So yeah, so here we are. So and I knew I was kind of going to do this stream this morning because it's one of the only chances I'm going to get this week. So I thought I'd get out here and I'd do this, and I knew that I had to kind of get done early because I've got stuff I got to get done today as well. It's the weekend, but thought I'd get in here. So I'm having fun with this. All frustration aside, and it has been a bit of a frustrating morning. I enjoy flying these airplanes. I enjoy getting stuff done. I am a goal-oriented person. I'm a pilot through and through. My job is to get the mission done, and that's what pilots want to do. And they will sometimes stick their noses in where they don't belong in the name of let's see if we can get the mission done. And it's a tough mentality to get over. I was just watching the first episode of Mayday again the other day. I decided I want to try and watch it right through because I've watched it sporadically here and there, and I've seen a lot of the episodes, but it's been going for years now and still making more episodes. They're on season 18 or 20 or something now, so I haven't seen a lot of these later ones, but I kind of want to go back and watch some of these earlier ones as well, so I'm going to kind of go through all of them in order again and sort of watch them all. But even just going back to the first one, the very first Mayday episode was that they did was the Little Rock. The MD-80 into Little Rock. I believe it was an MD-80, MD-88 maybe. into Little Rock that crashed on landing because of water on the runway and all sorts of other things. But at the end of the day, the one thing that really doomed them was the fact they didn't arm the spoilers because they were so overwhelmed with the amount of work they were doing trying to dodge thunderstorms, trying to get into Little Rock. And it's one of those things where they really shouldn't have been landed there in the first place, probably. And I'm not going to try and second guess them so much, but it comes up as a perfect example of just how pilots are really go-getters that want to just go out there and get the job done. They know where the destination is. The mission is to get the passenger safely to the gate in Little Rock, and pilots will push a long way to kind of get that done. And it's tough. It's a tough mentality. It's not even a cowboy mentality. It's just this is the goal, and do what you can to get that goal done. And I'm that person through and through. I see a problem, and I say there's always a solution to this problem. Something breaks, I'll find a way around it. So, I'll find something to do. Case in point, like my wife's car had some problems starting. Roger, 35, climbing 36. Wife's car has had some problems starting recently. Haven't changed the battery since we bought the car, and that was 7 years ago. So I think, okay, it's time to change the battery. So, and then it comes down to, like, can I get the battery changed in a 35 to 40 minute window, between when she comes home from work, which is to go to take the kids to swimming lessons, because I want to leave it hooked up to my car and keep the current going between the two cars, so that way I don't have to reset all the computers and the engine idle settings and all that stuff. So, I'm trying to find solutions to problems rather than create problems here, and I managed to find a way and make sure that everything was ready. So as soon as she drove up, I was pretty much in the car within like 60 seconds of her driving up to give myself maximum time, because it's not hard to change a battery. But it's just one thing about fixing cars too. It's that there's always something going wrong. There's always something that the simplest task in your car. It never is quite as simple as it seems. There's always something that kind of twists and goes wrong. Whether it be something as simple in the case of the battery, it went for the most part pretty smoothly. The biggest obstacle I ran into was the fact that it's got the two restraining hooks on either side. They hold the battery in place, like a metal plate across the top, and the two, hook-shaped bolts that hold it in place. And the nuts on those were so solidly rusted that I spent a long time just trying to get them moving again. Once I got them moving, the rest of the process went quickly. But it's always something when you're fixing a car that does not quite go according to plan. So that's FMC speed, VNAV path, LNAV, we're level at 36,000. There's always something that doesn't quite go according to plan. There's always something that whether it be something that just is rusted so solid together it doesn't come apart. But that's why I was very leery about trying to do this battery change in 30 minutes. But it's like, if I don't do it today, I won't have another chance to do it for probably 5 or 6 days. And what happens if one morning she gets up for work and I'm not home and the car doesn't start? It's like I need to know that it's going to be reliable. So I found a way to get it done. That just goes to the kind of person I am. That very much as a pilot, even as a person, but especially I think ever since I became a pilot, it's very much, there's got to be a way to get this job done. There's got to be a solution. It may not be the obvious one all the time. It may not be the one that's easiest or most liked, but there's always got to be a solution. When something breaks, there's got to be a way to fix it. And that's the way I kind of, I tend to approach everything in life. When the stream is not going well, when GSX breaks down, I have FS2 crew as a backup. If I don't have FS2 crew, I have a third backup. I have a third very simplistic pushback application that's very just point and click. There's no interaction to it. There's no voice or anything. There's no automation to it whatsoever. But it does the job in a pinch. So that's the pilot's way. Always trying to get the job done. There's always a solution, a way to get the job done. Sometimes you push it a little bit past, and I think those guys in Little Rock, they pushed it probably way past where they should have. But at the same time, you get into that tunnel vision of I can see the destination, I can see it, I can see the runway, we can make it, and you're sort of not looking around at the giant walls of thunderstorms on either side. And I can see how you get into that. I'm starting to get out of that myself, especially being new on a different type of aircraft. You very much are in tunnel vision a lot of the time, because 90%, 95% of your mental effort is just going into doing the most basic tasks of flying when you don't know the airplane, because that's just human nature. I need to actively think about all the things I'm doing in this airplane because I'm unfamiliar with it. I'm still learning it. I'm still kind of settling it into the long-term memory, into the instinctual habits, but it's definitely not there. I'm starting to slowly, I see myself, I'm starting to make that transition away from now. It's not 95% of the mental capacity required to fly the airplane. I'm down to probably about 70% of my mental capacity is required to fly the airplane, which is good because then that frees up 30% to start looking at the external tasks, what's going on around the airplane, around the actual task of flying the airplane, and you know, what's the weather doing, you know, what other situations do we have coming up? We have a medical situation on board now we got to deal with, and trying to sort of, yeah, being able to better divide your mental capacity, and the more experience you get on an airplane, you start to get a couple hundred hours into an airplane, the amount of mental energy you need to do the more basic tasks of flying, setting up arming and flying an approach, you're down to like 20 or 30% of your mental capacity. 70% of your mental capacity is now spent on the overall observation of the flight, of what's going on external to the immediate task of flying the airplane. What's the weather doing? What's the traffic situation? What's ATC doing? That sort of stuff. And I'm starting to cross that bridge now and finally kind of shift, and I'm very happy to sort of say that in the last week or so I've seen that shift a little bit, where I have more mental capacity available to take in. And it makes me happy to be sort of reaching that stage, because that's where the captain needs to operate all the time. The whole idea of direct entry captains is a challenging idea. Of taking a person who's never flown an aircraft type before, putting them directly to the left seat, training them on this airplane type, and saying, okay, you now have to make all the decisions, and you're the last line of defense on these airplanes. And it's very possible for a person to do that, but in order to really effectively manage an operation as a captain, you need to make sure that you have a lot of excess mental capacity available in order to monitor the overall management of the flight, the overall situation. You know, if most of your attention is focused on flying the airplane, especially if it's your leg flying, and 95% of your attention is focused on flying the airplane and managing just all the little switches in front of you, very little attention being paid to what's the big picture of what's going on outside. So you can be flying a perfect approach and don't even notice the fact that there's a thunderstorm just a couple miles west of the airport, because so much of your attention is just focused on this little area, and you're not even paying attention to what's going on outside because you're just so focused. So, direct entry captain on a new aircraft type. It's one thing if you're kind of familiar with the aircraft type, like if you're flying a 737 at one company and another company calls you and offers you a direct entry position on a 737. That's very different. But hiring you as a direct entry captain on an airplane you have no experience on, so. You've never flown this airplane before, guess what? You're now the captain of this airplane. That's a lot of work. You know, even for me personally at the stage I'm at, like I feel like I can make pretty good decisions, but I need to have that spare, I know I need to have that spare capacity, so I did direct entry once. I don't think I would ever do it again. It's so much effort. I would much rather spend 6 months in the right seat or a year in the right seat, learning the airplane, kind of understanding the airplane, how it works, how it functions, how the company functions, all that stuff, and then be able to transition to the left seat after that. Then that's a very reasonable process, but you need some time to really just adjust to and learn and work these habits. We can make a lot of these activities habits, and not in a bad way, but just that you kind of know what to do without having to think a whole lot. I know how to make the airplane go up and down without having to think about which button I have to press to make the airplane go up and down. Anywho, I feel like it's a long rant right there. What else? Let's see here. There's a couple things that are actually new here too, and you may have noticed this, but and I mentioned this briefly last time, but we didn't have a whole lot of chance to look at it because the last flight was so quick; it was over before I even knew what was going on here. Yeah, Navigraph has now updated their in-sim panel here. It's loading slowly, I think. Maybe it won't load, I don't know. But anyways, they've upgraded their in-sim panel here now to match the desktop version with the new updated, I think this is version 8 of Navigraph charts, and in theory it should be drawing all these charts here, and I don't know why it's not. It's being a little bit of a bear like that. Let me just try restarting it one more time here and see if it's going to start here, because it's generally been pretty good. This is odd that it's not loading for me, but of course this is just hand in hand with the full rest of this stream today. But even without loading it, you can kind of see, even just here, you can see the improved interface, first of all, around the outside. You can see that everything here is this is now all vector art, and if the charts would actually load, you can see that it's all vector art. Oh, that just takes you the whole route. That's kind of neat. Yeah, that's good. But for some reason, these background charts are not loading. Of course, but you can see it actively draws your SIDs, your en route, your star, based on everything you've selected here in your flight plan, and you've got a whole flight plan here, and you can even pick the arrival runway. So it's already picked an arrival runway for me of 16 right. I think that's probably because of the Simpri flight plan. So you can see it's got the whole downwind for 16 right. All the approaches here. Let me try it one more time here, because that's not what I meant to select. But look at this. Not the one I actually meant to select. I meant to select the ILS. But look, like it even shows you here's the approach. So this is the whole star here in green. Then this is the actual approach with all the fixes. This looks like RNAV Zulu, so it looks like it's an RNP approach in America here. The whole thing, missed approach in dash is here beyond runway 16 center. So the whole thing is drawn on here. You know, dynamically using vector art. It's overall very well done. You can see information here about your origin and destination. You can even see your crosswind and headwind components. So right now 0-0, but when we left Burbank, it was a 5-knot headwind, 1-knot crosswind. Not much, but you can certainly see that. All sorts of options here, and you can edit all these things on the fly. So if I decide I don't want to do the ILS, I want to do something different, I can select a different approach. So let's see, Hawks to 16 center. So that's the only one with the direct transition, but I could do, if I want to do the ILS to 16 center, I can do this transition. You can even see which one here. So Griffey is kind of coming from the right direction here. Hulto, Erica, you can see it's trying the different ones here, or just simply just transition directly onto final. So probably I'll just put Griffey here, or not Griffey, Erica here to get a couple of fixes down here, but we're probably going to get turn base, and you can add that to your route, and now it's going to be part of our route. So it takes everything else away, give it a second to redraw, and there you go. So there's our vector leg after the end of the star, and there's your ILS. So everything drawn on in real time very accurately. It automatically loads from your Simpri flight plan. If you load a Simpri flight plan, it's got a SID or a star in it. It automatically populates the SID and the star in your flight plan, and also down here on your bottom list of quick charts here that you can get into really quickly, which is great. Just tons of great options. What else have we got here? Of course, you can always create your own flight plan. I don't want to take this one away because it's useful to have this right now, but and then you can also just go into airports mode. You can search any airport you want, whether it's part of your flight or whether it's just something completely random, and you can go directly to the charts page for that. It's even got a in the sim here, you can see it's got its own built-in keyboard, so if you're using VR or something where its keyboard's not directly in front of you, you still have the ability to interact with this, so it's huge legs up. Yeah, my question is with updates in MSFS, why they continue to break weather and clouds and have a rush to fix. Yeah, you think the beta testing would catch this. The whole point of beta testing is to catch these kind of things, so why are we not catching these kind of things with beta testing? I agree 100%, and why it's a mandatory. You cannot proceed into the sim ever without finishing an update. That whole thing, just the whole update philosophy of Microsoft Flight Simulator. This whole, you must have the absolute most current software at all times within 10 seconds of us publishing it. Philosophy, it's a bloody game. At the end of the day, like Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's a game. It's not system critical functionality. It's a game. If I want to go fly the sim, and then you've got a 17 gig update waiting for me. By the time you get the 17 gig updates done, my sim time is over with. So let me pick. Like, we had the same problem with Microsoft Windows back in the day. It would just update randomly whenever it wanted to. You could be sitting in the middle of a class at university trying to take notes, and your computer says, "Oh, I'm updating now. I'll be back in 17 minutes." And it's like, now what am I going to do for 17 minutes? Take notes on my phone? Like, write things on a piece of paper like a sucker? And you can, but why did Microsoft get to pick when your computer rebooted? Why did the user? It's my computer. I should be have a little bit of say in what happens to it. This whole idea that all these developers want to control your device long after they sold it to you. Don't even get me started on these cars on BMW with heated seat subscription. You have to subscribe to the heated seat that's installed in your car. What a gong show of an idea. I see 100% why the corporations want to do it, and we need to all, as a society, stand up and say this is an unacceptable this is unacceptable as a way to run a business. You've sold me the car. It has the equipment in it. It should work. Period. End of discussion. If it doesn't break down, I'll bring it to a garage and we'll get it fixed. But none of this, well, you know, you're going to have to subscribe to it every month if you want to continue using it. What up? I'm trying to avoid saying bad words on my stream so that so I don't even have to flag it at all for ads, because sometimes you've had too many bad words in your stream. It gets flagged and it doesn't get to, you don't get any ad revenue from it. But boy, this stream has really pushed me into that direction of wanting to use some bad words today. Yeah, this whole everything is a service idea, you know, like you don't own anything. Like you buy a fridge, but you don't let you own the fridge. You're just simply subscribing to a fridge, and we may or may not let you use it if you don't continue to pay us $17 a month to use your own fridge that you already paid $2,000 for up front. Like, it, you know, you put the appliance in my house, like put anything in my, like if I buy a car, everything that's in the car should be working at the time that I purchase it, and I shouldn't have to pay you a fee after the fact to activate additional features in my car. What the... Oh, there we go. Now it's finally triggered. Yeah, but the nice thing about this is, like, it's now... It's no longer... The previous versions, it was all kind of digitized maps, but it was all a couple of set scales. Now it is... The whole Navigraph charting system is now completely vector driven, so no matter what your zoom level, you can just keep on zooming in, and it's given a couple seconds for it to reload and redraw, but it will redraw everything at different zoom levels. So everything now is vector art, so you don't have to worry about not being able to read stuff because you're zoomed too far out or too far in. It's all vector driven, which is really nice. And they have VFR charts now, which is a huge improvement too. They never used to have VFR charts. It used to only be IFR low, IFR high, and then there was like a basic satellite image background if you wanted that. But now you've got full VFR charts. So if we could look out the window, yeah, we kind of can. It's not great, but you can kind of look out there. But you can see where we're flying here. So we're just flying just along the eastern edge of the Central Valley of California here. So just a couple of, a little bit of rocky terrain right over here, but then over to the east, over to the west, it's all much clearer. You'll see mountains coming up. You'll see lakes coming up here on the right side there, and it looks like they're frozen, but there you go. There's your couple of lakes just coming up there. There's two there, then another one just past it there. So if we're gonna fly VFR, this would be a great system now too. Like I used to have to use flightplan.com to do any kind of VFR flying. We didn't have Navigraph didn't do VFR charts, but now fully supported VFR charts for the airspace, all sorts of stuff. As you zoom in more, you get more and more details, so you can actually see rail lines, you know, individual built-up areas. It's really quite well done. Obviously, the terrain is all mapped on there. Airports, water features, but even, you know, zoom in here, you see like there's a tower here. All the stuff that was on the VFR chart is now available here in Navigraph. So what a nice update. I've got to say, like, Navigraph is not cheap, and they raised the price this year. But I will say this: they're improving their product, and they're making their product better and better. But I think you can kind of justify the price increases. I mean, it is what it is. I don't know if I necessarily like the constant price increases, but I'm just going to take some nice exterior shots now because it's... Let's see, I got a little... Where is it? Up here in this corner here, we got a little bit of a... There it is. A little bit too much background light coming in there. I have to just adjust my camera ever so slightly here. Take a little bit more off the top there so that little white spot disappears. You see that little white spot there. It's because there's a window back there and it's getting sunny outside, so even with the window shade down, it's more light than it knows how to exclude. Anyways, yeah, so the Navigraph update is really nice. The other thing that got updated this last week too that I did update because it was very complaining about it, made it really insist that I do it, is Parallel42's Flow. Got some new features as well, which I really have not played with, so this is kind of new to me here, but let's just see what else we can add here. So move your aircraft to various coordinates. Yeah, see, this is something here that has been kind of missing from Microsoft Flight Simulator for a while here. Some portals, so you could actually find your airports, find your favorite airports, move your aircraft directly there, select the location and teleport to. I don't want to do that right now because we're flying right in the middle of a flight, but you can do that. They have their own weather widget here, which and the camera widget apparently has also been improved. So here's the weather widget. It's been improved a little bit, but the other one that was also improved upon was the camera widget. If I can find where I have it here, this is yeah, I don't even know what's going on here. But they have made some improvements to this. So let's see here. I don't even know. Oh, so is this like let's see here. If I go, there we go. Did I just do something? Autopilot still on? Yeah, no, it's just, that was the planned turn. Okay, I just see the turn happening here. I'm like, what's going on? Why is this not moving here? This should move freely. What's going on here? So I guess you can change the speed of the panning and the doesn't want to do anything here now. I can't even move this at all. My drone camera appears to be struck. Did disconnect the autopilot though. My drone camera appears to be stuck, and I don't know why. That was about where I had it before when we took off, when we started the stream. Okay, well this is going well so far. But anyways, there was Parallel42 did push a bit of an update to their there we go, an update to their app here. Units, cameras, and more. So added the ability to cycle through various unit descriptions by clicking on the metric. Okay, there you go. Camera panel, added camera speed knobs, head tracking toggle, and more. It's no chase plane. It's way better than default. Yeah, well, exactly. The default is a bit sad in this here. So. That being said, I don't know how to get these things to move, really. Oh, there we go. I kind of found there. So there's your pan and your move. So I guess you can control the speed. Supposedly you can turn head tracking on and off, but yeah, there we go. There's my head tracking off. There we go. See, I can turn my head. Doesn't do anything anymore, which is kind of nice. Just have that as an option. But I guess that oh, that's probably because that was the yeah. So I turned it off, but I had turned it, so that's where it was. But yeah, so the key point here is that Parallel42 is not sitting on their laurels. They are slowly improving the software, so they are adding more features, and this I think has so much potential. The camera controls, the default camera controls in Microsoft Flight Simulator are just horrible. There's no real way to control it except by memorizing up literally about 100 different keys. I just find that very, very awkward. It's nice to have this, so I'm hoping that as the as we go forward, hopefully Parallel42 will figure out more and better ways to make this camera app, this camera widget work even better, and hopefully SO will help unlock stuff for them to do that. So there's improvements to that. The time panel, let's see here. So where's the time panel? I think I have the time panel. Let's just set clock to real time. This is the time panel. So now they've added more where they didn't have this before, but now you can go quickly in intervals. You can quickly be able to cycle the date as well, and then you can lock the time in, so even as you fly, if you don't want the time to change, if you want to stay in a certain time, you can even do that. So the key thing to me is that they are making improvements to this thing. The widgets are changing; they're being updated. Now a lot of this stuff is pro only, but there are things that are happening that are changing. Apparently, one thing that you can do now in the settings. So I was told is you have now an always centered option. And even a keep open. So these are brand new options just in the last week or so. So even no matter where my mouse is on the screen, it launches the flow menu directly in the center of the screen at all times, no matter where my mouse is, instead of launching it wherever the mouse is. Now I kind of like this better, but it's nice to have that as an option. Keep open, so even if you execute something, so let's say we go into the time menu, the widgets, the window stays open until I hit the close key on it. That also could be very useful. So I don't think I'm going to go with those yet, but I may play with that. Again, to me, the biggest thing here is that Parallel42 is not sitting on their laurels. They are definitely looking at this, looking at the community. The community is probably, I'm sure, providing plenty of feedback, and they're saying, what can we do to improve the software, to make it run better, to make it more useful to the end user. So I'm hoping that over time, that camera widget will develop into a near replica of Chaseplane, because Chaseplane was a fantastic piece of software, absolutely fantastic. Microsoft's default camera system has nothing on what Chaseplane could do. Not only could you create all these views, which was great, and it's good that Microsoft Simulator's got all these views built in, but then you could adjust each one, save the changes to each one, and the changes you could make, like, they were pretty dramatic. So you could there was the sliders for pan, up, down, left, right, move, translate, up, down, left, right, forwards, backwards, zoom in, zoom out. You had all these sliders for all these things, so you could adjust precisely, and you could drag it just a little bit to go a little ways, you could drag it a lot to go a long ways, to do things quickly, and then you could save those changes, so instantly all these changes get saved. Just what a very useful, intuitive piece of software Chaseplane was. It had the cinematic mode, where it just sort of panned through different cinematic views of the aircraft outside. If you weren't flying, if you were kind of hands off the airplane for a little while, you could just sort of turn that on and just sort of watch the show. There were just so many, and then you could also exchange those things too. So you could save your presets, send them to other people could download them and use them. So not every person in the world had to set up every single view of every single aircraft that they wanted to fly. They could go and use somebody else's views. It was just a fantastic piece of software, well thought out, well laid out, very, very, very useful. And again, there was one that was also constantly developed. Parallel42 does not sit on their laurels. They don't just sort of throw stuff out there and run away from it and move on to the next best thing. When they put something out there, they follow through. They continue to develop it, listen to the user base. Just moving forward and improving their software. That's good to see. So many people kind of put stuff out there, and especially when it's freeware, people often do it for a little while and then they forget about it. They set it, they forget it, they don't worry about it anymore, because it's a lot of effort to maintain software. It really, truly is. But it's good to see that there are lots of good developers out there that do have the follow through. Parallel42 is top of that list right off the bat. Coffee's already done. Boo. Well, we're already making good progress here. We've got it's a little over an hour to go till we get to Seattle, so already doing well here. Let's just have a quick little look-see here. No ATC online yet. Albuquerque Center. That does not help us in the direction we're going. What else to talk about? Just trying to think about what other things came up here. FS2 crew is slowly working on their EFB, and apparently they're going to release the 737-900. Still no EFB in any of these 737s yet. And I realize it's something it's not simple. You want to make sure you get it right, but I find PMDG has become a little bit of a funny company like that. For a company that generally has been renowned as being a very good developer, a very high-end developer with very high standards. And maybe it's those high standards that are the problem, but there's a few things that have kind of fallen by the wayside now. And the first thing that comes to mind is global flight operations, which was announced 4 years ago. And I realized that Microsoft Flight Simulator was announced 6 months later. It just completely shook the very bedrock of which the PMDG development world was based upon. But it's one of those things that it's just a little over the horizon all the time. Oh, you know, it's getting there. We're working on it. It's beta testing, and there's people in the beta, but it seems like, you know, it's 6 months to a year away constantly for the last like 4 years. It does not seem to have made much progress. And maybe, and again, maybe they're, you know, PMDG is not a huge company. It's a decent sized, for a flight sim developer, it's decent size, but it's only a limited number of people, only a limited amount of resources. Obviously, the focus has gone into developing aircraft for a new sim. I think maybe you got to wonder if maybe Global Flight Operations was perhaps a little bit of a little bit of way of maintaining cash flow in what was at the time a very mature market. P3D was a pretty mature market. They'd released a whole wide array of airplanes for P3D, and everyone had gone out and bought them. But then it's like, yeah, after a point in time, you stop selling more copies of the product because most people that ever are going to want it have already bought it. So maybe Global Flight Operations was kind of the long-term solution to what was at the time looking like a mature market without a whole lot of big future to it, as it were. And maybe that's just my way of looking at it, yeah, they spent they spent a lot of time developing those airplanes. They sold a lot of copies of 737, and then they had to reboot it like once or twice. A lot of copies of the 747, a lot of copies of the 777. You know, and that's sort of their wheelhouse. What do you do after that? And the DC-6 is kind of a fun little outlier there, but you know, trying to bring another airliner to the sim, like they put a lot of effort over the years into several iterations, and you know, every time they say they're starting from scratch, I don't know if I believe it 100%. But there's got to be some basis. But even so, all the documentation and intelligence is already gathered. They know what the end product has to look like. So even redeveloping the 737, the 747, probably not as much effort as if they were to bring something else in. Like say, let's go for a 5.7 or a 6.7, something completely different from what we've done before. Not completely different, but you know what I mean. Like a new product, a new airframe that we have not done before. It's probably pretty intimidating. So maybe was Global Flight Operations perhaps their answer to a very mature market where they were not selling a whole lot of copies of their airplanes anymore, and that very possibly the case. And then of course Microsoft Flight Simulator comes along, and all of a sudden it's a new market again. We're back to making the basic airplanes in these sims again. You know, Global Flight Operations, if that was the goal, if they having them be an answer to a mature market, a revenue stream in a mature market that's what Global Flight Operations was targeting. All of a sudden, that became irrelevant in the Microsoft Flight Simulator era, when now we got to release the 737. We got 4 versions of this thing coming out. We got to develop that. Then we got to have a team starting to think ahead to the next aircraft, whether it be the 777 or the 47 or whatever we're doing next. We got to start thinking ahead on that one. So there's lots of market possibilities now. The market is huge, and the other thing too with Microsoft Flight Simulator is the market grew. I'm sure PMDG saw this, and I'm sure most of the other developers saw this. The market grew in a very big and marked way when MSFS came out versus what they were able to, versus the number of units they were able to push in the P3D FSX era, or even in the X-Plane era when the market was somewhat more limited. MSFS really kind of brought a huge market share that never existed before, created a market that never existed before in some cases. So yeah, right now they're not feeling the pressure to release Global Flight Operations. It's a little disappointing, and I don't know if I would have subscribed to it. It was definitely a novel idea. I liked the idea. I thought it was a lot of fun potentially. I think for me it would have probably come down to price at the end of the day. What were they going to charge for it, and how much would it really be worth? For me as a simmer, like I love simming, and when I have the time I do it a lot. But when I work a lot, I sometimes will be lucky if I can get in 1 session a week. So if I can get in 4 sessions in a month or 5 sessions in a month, whatever they're charging, is that worth the price at this point? And that's with PMDG, we know they don't skimp on the price. So that was kind of my biggest concern with Global Flight Operations, is how much they're going to charge, because I was definitely very willing to give it a good solid look. It was a solid idea. It was a great idea. I just wonder whatever happened to it. Like, it's been all quiet on the Western Front, I think. I imagine it's just a question of not having the resources, but it seemed like it was so close to kind of, it seems like it's been in beta for a while, so it seems like they're kind of at that point where they could have probably released it to market without a whole lot more effort, without a whole lot more development. I guess they really just turned all their focus onto MSFS. Yeah, it's a little disappointing. It's not quite Star Citizen yet, but it's one of those things. It's just it's in development. It'll come out eventually. Well, we're already 160 miles from Lakeview, which is the start of our star. So that's been pretty quick already. I've been yakking for well over an hour here in flight. Squibbly, if you got anything you want to talk about, please bring it up. I'm trying to think of what else. I was just going to have a quick scroll through my phone's feed here and see what other things kind of came up the last little while here. Yeah, so the 737-900 flight beam's going to update MSFS Denver. Yeah, there's developers going to work on SimWorks Studios, and FS Reborn are going to work on the 727. Like there's lots of airplanes and software being developed, which is really nice to see. You know, really, in another couple of years, the world's going to be your oyster. Like whatever you want to fly, you can get it in the sim. If you want to go and fly float planes, the Twin Otter's out there. That's a really great float plane versatile. You can go a decent distance speed with it, but it's a good old float plane still. Yeah, you know, airliners, certainly light aircraft galore. Whatever light aircraft you like, it's probably someone's developed some kind of a model for it in the sim, or certainly every category of aircraft's been pretty much covered. The only, yeah, the one that's kind of, I find is a little bit missing is still the turboprop, like the transport category turboprop is kind of still a missing category. I mean, Majestic's got their Dash 8, they've talked about working on it. Not going to hold my breath on that one. Nothing against Majestic, but they're just not a big studio. That's going to be years of development. The ATR is the other one that's coming. It's kind of missing right now, but it is in development. And who was it? Somebody said they were putting it on hold. So there was two ATRs being worked on, and I'd have to go back probably a long way to figure this out here. Oh, and then the Antonov too. But yeah, so the ATR, I can't remember who was working on it. Somebody was working on it, and they shelved the project because they know that Asobo is going to release a version of the ATR that's going to be pretty good. Apparently, it's going to be kind of up there with the A310 in terms of being a fairly high quality simulation, not one of the cheaper add-ons that Asobo tends to do. Well, I won't say Asobo tends to do, but that Asobo has released the default aircraft, but it's supposed to be a pretty realistic aircraft. But that takes us full circle to the other one, which is the Antonov 225, which is there's some interesting stuff going on there. I almost forgot about that. So yeah, so Microsoft announced that I&I Builds is working with Antonov on a copy of the AN225 Maria aircraft. It's going to be a payware add-on. It's going to be an official Asobo released add-on, but it's going to be a payware version. I think they said 10 or 20 bucks. And the interesting thing about this is that the revenue from that add-on is going to all go directly to the Antonov company. And it's basically going to be earmarked for resurrecting the AN225. So what an interesting kind of marketing concept. Fly the AN225 in the sim and help support the rebuilding of the AN225 in real life. And I have some weird immediate mixed emotions about it. Antonov at the end of the day is a private company. You know, do we really need to be sponsoring a private company? You know, supporting a private company trying to build an aircraft with you know, what amount to almost donations by purchasing this DLC. But I mean, Antonov finds themselves in a bit of a weird, odd place because the aircraft was destroyed as a result of a war that, you know, they had nothing to do with, and they just simply want to bring this aircraft back in the skies. And I guess apparently when they were building it, they did build. The original plan was to build two 225s, and they only ever really had enough money to finish one, but they did a lot of parts were built for the second one, so there's a lot of parts out there somewhere secretly hidden in Ukraine at a secret location that they feel like they could finish the aircraft, a second copy of the aircraft, you know, within a reasonable time period, because the large portions of it, I believe parts of the fuselage were actually manufactured. Some other things were manufactured already, so I like the idea. Don't get me wrong. You know, it's a huge aircraft. It's a beautiful aircraft. I love the idea of bringing it back to the sky. Just the idea of Simmers sponsoring that is a little odd. I mean, it's not like you have to buy the aircraft. It's not like you have to pay for it. You don't have to put any money to it. But it's one of those things I find is a little bit odd, kind of sort of traipsing the border between philanthropy and capitalism. I mean, at the end of the day, Antonov is a for-profit company. You know, do they really need people to make donations to rebuild this aircraft? you know, that they're probably going to start renting out again for good money. It's a weird situation to be put in, because I like the idea again of flying the Antonov, and I think that, and that's definitely an add-on I would consider. You know, the world's largest airplane, that could be a lot of fun, especially I&I builds, making it, probably doing a very good quality job. Their A310 was very impressive. I was very happy with flying that thing around in the sim. I only flew it a handful of times, but it definitely felt impressive, looked impressive, mostly fully functional as far as I could tell. So you know, it's going to be a relatively high-end DLC for Microsoft Flight Simulators. But yeah, just the idea that whatever it is, 10 or 20 bucks that you spend on it goes to support a different private company. But I mean, at the end of the day, I guess the developers would be private companies. I don't know. It's weird. To me, it's a little weird. We're kind of, like I said, we're kind of treading that line between capitalism and philanthropy. And yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I had similar kind of emotions when I found out that SimBrief was being taken over by Navigraph, and they still left their donate button up in the corner. And I'm like, well, Navigraph's a for-profit company. You know, they put out a great product, and I'm happy that they'll probably put a lot of resources into SimBrief and make sure that SimBrief again continues for a long time. But then, do I really need to donate money to support SimBrief at this point if it's being sponsored by a supported part of the portfolio of a larger for-profit company? Do I really need to make any more donations to it? And yeah, that again, that sort of was a little bit odd. Like, I wouldn't want SimBrief to go out of business, but like, should I really be contributing money when Navigraph is putting money into this? And that part, parking brake, hello, and that's part of the charm of Navigraph though too. And like, I don't mind paying a little bit extra for the subscription, because I know that indirectly through the subscription I am supporting SimBrief. And I certainly make enough use out of SimBrief and the Navigraph charts combined that I feel like I do get my money's worth out of their annual subscription. Yeah, the price went up a little bit this year, and it's getting a little hefty, but again, good product. Like, the charting software is really good product. SimBrief is a fantastic website. I know they didn't develop the SimBrief website, but they're now providing the support for it, and will probably provide additional development going forward. And actually, that brings up a point too. And I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to talk about this. Let me just quickly read this email that I received, because it's been such a busy week. I got this email and I kind of glanced at it, and I just did not even have a chance to really digest what it said. So let me see. There's nothing in here that says like it's confidential or anything, but apparently Navigraph is working on a major update to SimBrief. So there's a redesign of the SimBrief user interface coming up, which is one thing I'll say about Navigraph. They do have good user interface design experience. They are very good at building a very good user interface. Like the Navigraph charting application, it has a few shortcomings, by all means. It's not perfect by any means, but it is generally a very good, very intuitive user interface for the most part. One of the things that bothers me the most about this current this new iteration of the software is that it doesn't work on the small screens anymore. If I take my phone out and try to use my phone, all I get is a message that, oh, the Navigraph app is no longer supported at this resolution. And I get it, because there's a lot of stuff kind of going on screen now, and they need to sort of find a way to manage it. But they've got to find a way to manage it for these small screens, because the one thing I love to do with my phone is when I'm doing a flight like this, or even a longer flight than this, where you're doing a 3 or 4 hour flight, and you want to get up and you want to go and, you know, just do something around your house. You want to go and clean the house, do your laundry, make a meal, whatever you're going to do while your plane is still kind of trucking along for a couple hours during cruise. I bring my phone with me, and I'm able to track where exactly my aircraft is in flight using the Navigraph app, because I just see it's got the constant updates. So you can see the pink thing, the pink arrow there, so I know exactly where it is. I know exactly how close it is getting to the destination without having to constantly come down to the computer and check on it. So I really love that feature. I don't use my phone a lot for the charting aspect, because it is kind of it is small. It's a small screen. It's kind of hard to read the charts on a screen that's that small. But I do like carrying it around and knowing, and just for the sake of updating my position and knowing, having some situational awareness of my flight when I'm, you know, doing some errands or whatever around the house during the middle of a long cruise where no ATC and nothing's happening. So I really hope that they get back on that they get the smaller screen. They find a way to create a small screen version that is workable, because it's very annoying that I've just been cut off altogether from that access now. But yeah, so SimBrief apparently is coming up with an updated user interface. I don't know anything about what this means. I have not had a chance to even check into this yet. This email came in this week, a couple days ago, and I've just been working so hard. By the time I get home, I have maybe 2 hours left in me of to do everything, including getting ready for work the next day, eating a meal, spending a little bit of time, like and then I'm just done. So I haven't looked into it. I want to look into it, and hopefully I will get a chance this week to look into it. Maybe I can bring you guys an update on this next stream of what this SimBrief update is going to look like. Because for those of you that haven't seen it on my YouTube channel, but I do have 3 different tutorial videos because I think SimBrief is a fantastic piece of software, and there's so much depth to it that you can skip right past. It's very easy to use, and if you're new and you're just getting started, you just need to quickly generate a flight plan. You can do it very quickly, leave a lot of the default options in there right off the bat, and you can generate a perfectly great flight plan very quickly. But there's a lot of depth to it as well. Like the amount of depth surprises me almost every time I get into it, how much you can tinker with and tweak your flight plan to really make it truly realistic, to make the planning realistic, to make the outcome realistic. There's so much depth to it. So I ended up doing 3 different tutorial videos. I was going to do a 4th. I have never gotten around to doing it, but I was going to literally just sit there and just, from a dispatching perspective, show you what the kind of things a dispatcher would look at as they're building a flight plan. Because if you go through and you build a flight plan pretty straightforward, there's things that dispatchers are thinking about that pilots, especially sim pilots, are often not considering. So I kind of wanted to go through that and sort of show you guys like just some of the stuff that a dispatcher would think about. And I just haven't had a chance to do that. It's been so busy this last week. Well, this last month or so, ever since Christmas, has been very busy. But also with that Embraer coming out from Flight Sim Studios, and I've been also putting together those tutorial videos. I saw that as an untapped market. There's the Embraer is it's a fairly typical jet in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of kind of just unique little gotchas in that jet. That yeah, check out my YouTube. But there's tons of good videos in there, depending on what you're interested in. But yeah, so the Embraer it's mostly a fairly typical jet. That's a lot like a Boeing in a lot of ways. It's a little bit more. It's an odd cross between the Boeing and the Airbus. You know, it does have like a traditional control column. The FMS is very Boeing styled, but then you get this Airbus level of automation. So this panel is redonkulous. The panel in the Embraer is much cleaner because most of the system's pretty automatic, and you don't even move most of the switches in the Embraer. It's like the Airbus, where most of what happens, you know, hydraulics, electrics, bleeds, and everything, it's all automatically controlled by the computers. Unless something goes wrong, you don't touch too many switches in the Embraer. So it's an interesting combination. There's lots of unique little quirks to the Embraer. So I saw that as a great chance to get some tutorial videos out there and help people learn how to fly this particular aircraft with a little bit of unique insight from someone who's done it for years. But yeah, so that's taken up a lot of my time lately, and then just this week just exploded into work. So I got as far as the takeoff and the tutorial videos. I've got a climb, cruise, descent video that all I've done so far is I've recorded the raw footage. I have barely even started to stitch it together into a final video because I just haven't had the time. So that's going to be my project for the next couple of days, hopefully, and then eventually we'll get into the doing the approaches. The trouble with the Flight Sim Studios Embraer is that it's so incomplete at this phase. It's hard to do some of these videos. I've been able to get most of this done so far with a little bit of caveats here and there that this is not the way it should be. And then I got to the takeoff, and the takeoff's kind of brutal a little bit. The guidance does not yet realistically represent the Embraer. It doesn't do properly what it's supposed to. It kind of does a lot of stuff it's not supposed to. It's not really great yet, and I know they're working on it, and it's going to get there. But trying to put together a tutorial video and show how to operate the aircraft properly when the guidance is not doing what it's supposed to, it's been a little bit tough. I've had to kind of sort of mash some things together, and it's not great. And I think at the end of the day, when the upgraded guidance panels released and the upgraded FMS are released, I'm going to have to pretty much redo this tutorial series because it's just there's so much that's missing right now that is not working the way it's supposed to. And I kind of tried to explain stuff anyways, even as I went through it, even the stuff that doesn't function yet. But I think it'll look a lot better if I can re-record it when all that functionality does arrive eventually. Yeah, if you're just getting started in the big airliners, there's a lot going on. The Embraer is a pretty nice airplane. I wouldn't recommend it though if you're just getting started because it's still in an early access phase. It's not close to being accurate yet. I'm trying to think. There are lots of good tutorial videos out there. But the tutorial videos out there are double-edged swords. A lot of these videos that are out there are put together by simmers, and they often figure out what works, but they don't necessarily know why, and they don't necessarily know what the proper procedures are. So yeah, well, that's what we're flying right now. We're in the 737. We're in the 800 model, so I like it a lot as an airplane. It's very much as a pilot's airplane. You have to do a lot of the work yourself, getting it started. There's something satisfying, though. If you can get this airplane started, get it up and running single pilot, it's very impressive. If you want some help, I'm a little bit hesitant, but if you find yourself you're kind of struggling a little bit to get going in these airplanes, FS2 Crew can be a good tool when it works. If you haven't seen FS2 Crew before, all FS2 Crew is basically it's a virtual co-pilot. It's a voice-activated virtual co-pilot that you can actually get them to do a lot of the checklists, a lot of the system stuff, while you're kind of learning the airplane, and as a newbie, that could be very helpful. The reason I hesitate a little bit is that the current version of FS2 Crew is not fantastic. It doesn't live up to their previous versions. It has difficulties. It doesn't always listen to you, and that's, to say the least, that's incredibly frustrating. When you try to give it a voice command, and like I've got it right up here, and when you give it a voice command, sort of as a check, the phrase that it recognizes actually appears down here. So when you give it a voice command, it actually shows you the voice command it recognized right here, so that you know that your voice is being recognized, it's working properly, it's activating properly. But even when it recognizes the voice command, unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It just doesn't do anything in some cases. So it's not bad software, but it can be frustrating to use right now. And that's funny because, like, I find the other versions for Microsoft Flight Simulator, the ones for the Phoenix A320, the fly-by-wire A320, the Aerosoft CRJ, those ones all work fairly well. And the 737 is a bit of an outlier in that it gets hung up from time to time. It just will not do the next step, no matter how much you yell at it with the correct voice command. So, but it could be, I'll throw it out there as it could be a good learning tool, because it will do, if you can get it running, it will do a lot of the flows for you. It'll throw on the generators and the bleeds and everything, and it leaves you to just sort of worry about programming the FMS and actually flying the airplane. Other big tip I'll give you is for a 737, and this is one that this is a simism that I see a lot of people do, and it bugs me. And that is, you see people go in here and you'll see the YouTubers tell you this. Well, if you find a discontinuity in your flight plan, delete it. And that's not always good advice. That's my thing on that. They're coming from a good place. Like, yes, you don't necessarily want to have discontinuities in your flight plan. You want to see all the waypoints linked together, but sometimes there has to be a discontinuity in your flight plan. It's there for a reason. So let's take what we're doing here today as an example. We're on our way into Seattle here. I'm just going to briefly approach in a few minutes, but we're going to be doing, if I can get it up here, we're going to be doing the Hawk 7 arrival into Seattle here. So, you know, we're going to fly down all these waypoints, blah, 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 blah. I'm planning the 16, so we're going to get to this waypoint, and then at Aviation, landing 16 left, center, right, expect radar vectors. So when you get to this point, you have to keep flying this way until ATC radar vectors you around for the ILS. There's a reason why there's a discontinuity in here. Don't delete that discontinuity automatically. There's a vector leg in here. It's there for a reason. The same thing happened when we departed Burbank. So we started this flight at Burbank, and we departed 08. So the instructions on 08, climb right turn, heading 210 as assigned by ATC. So you climb out, you make an immediate right turn so you don't hit the mountain to 210 heading, and then you wait for vectors. So there'll be a discontinuity here as well, because you don't want the FMS to connect these things together. You want to fly this 210 heading until ATC tells you to turn this way. Don't delete the discons and the manual vector legs here at this point. Let them fly the way they're supposed to. When you get turned onto this heading and you can see that you've cleared the terrain, and especially if there's ATC online, if you're flying an online network and there's ATC, don't delete the discons. Leave the vector legs in there. You can always go direct tiller after the fact, but it bugs me because I control on VATSIM as well as everyone else who probably watches the channel knows, but you see it all the time. You see people immediately take off on one of these vector SIDs, and you're supposed to maintain this heading, and instead of maintaining this heading, it just turns around immediately and starts flying back across the approach path and over towards some other waypoint. So make sure you know what the SIDs and stars are telling you to do. Yeah, just be careful not to add a 25 miles. Yeah, I mean, and within reason, like turn on course when you can, but don't delete this discon before you even depart. Leave that vector leg in there before you depart, and then when we get airborne and we got everything working and running, and we have ATC or we don't, but we'll turn on course later. We'll do direct tiller later, but don't delete these manual vector legs. Oh, sorry, it's a rant. I don't know if you do that or not. It's a bit of a rant, but I see new pilots doing it all the time because somebody on YouTube told me I have to delete every vector leg. It's like, no, that they're in there actually for a reason. There might be discontinuities, that might be mistakes that are in there that somehow got put in the flight plan. Absolutely, some discontinuities might be mistakes, but make sure you understand where the discontinuity is and see if it is there for a reason. If it's part of a SID or a star, it definitely might be there for a reason. If you're new to flying these airplanes, get some practice, but when you get good at it, I highly recommend that you also join one of the online networks. Personally, I recommend VATSIM because I like VATSIM and I control and fly on VATSIM, but it adds so much immersion when you can have ATC. We're flying on VATSIM right now. There's no controllers online because it's only, what time is it now? It's 8 a.m. on the West Coast. Yeah, it's 8 a.m. on the West Coast, so yeah, surprisingly, no controllers are awake at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning to control us going into Seattle today, but I find that adds a huge amount of immersion as a simmer. Oh, just an amazing amount of immersion. I can't get enough of these networks. It's a pity when you don't have the ATC online, and I don't think we're going to get any this morning because I'm flying the West Coast, but it's really early out there, and so nobody's online, so it's a bit of a shame. I try to kind of coincide with ATC when I can, and my last season of a pilot's life, we actually did really well, so Squibbly will attest to that. Like, we had ATC almost every single leg without fail going in and out of all these airports in and around New York. We had Cleveland Center and Boston Center and all the other centers we needed online. Almost every single time without fail, we had ATC. I think only like 1 or 2 legs we didn't get ATC, so it was really good. But now I'm flying the West Coast. I tend to still fly mornings because it's the best time for me to stream. Don't get a lot of ATC, which is a bit of a shame, but I'm here, I'm online, and if we get any ATC, I'm actually in the Eastern time zone. So for me, it's 11 a.m. But for these guys on the West Coast, it's 8 a.m. So yeah, it's a bit of it's a shame. I really wish there was some ATC online, but you know, at the end of the day, it's a hobby. I kind of have to make it work also with everything else I've got going on in my life. So Sundays mornings generally are best, afternoons kind of not so much. So yeah, anyways, it is what it is. We're here, we're going to get there soon, and we're already on the star. I'm kind of thinking about setting up this arrival here just because we're going to get there soon. Anyways, we're about 160 miles from our top of descent. This is probably a good time to kind of set up and make sure we're good. So one thing I kind of noticed while we're sitting here, that oil quantity is going down a fair bit there, 72%. I don't remember if it was that low when we started, but it's definitely a wee bit on the, or not the oil level, sorry, the hydraulic level. So it's definitely getting down there. If it got down to 50%, I'd start to get really worried here. And let's see here. The oil quantity itself, 11 quarts, 12 quarts, that's fine. It's no big deal. Alright, so we got all those checked out. So let's just do a quick little check there. Squibbly, you probably got an ATIS handy, but I'm just going to do a .wx. Yeah. Thank you, Squibbly. Let's see here. So yeah, winds 180 at 4, definitely favoring the 16s, 10 miles, few at 2,000, overcast 5,500s, cab okay. 6 degrees, 2973 on the meter. Let's set that on this. Actually, this is a Boeing. I can set it right now. If I can get the right knob there. 2973. I do like being able to preset these, and you just pop the button later when you get to transition altitude, so you don't have to look it up at that point when it's probably busy because you're closer. ILS and charted visuals, 16 right and 16 left in use. So no 16 center today, so I guess 16 right it is. I guess SimBrief was correct. We'll go with that ATIS. I kind of like that, so let's do the best we can here to kind of conform to the real world since there's no ATC online. So we will go with 16 right, because I know they like to do the departures off 16 left, so we're going to do that one. And again, let's see here which transition is going to work best for us here for 16 right. So let's bring up the approach for 16 right. And let's see here the different transitions. So Pain sounds like it's way too far out there. That's going to be way out there. That's not going to do us any good. Griffey's here. Seabucks, Agane, and Final. Yeah, I'll do Seabucks, but probably we're going to get turned in well inside of that. So we'll add that one to our route, so it's part of the flight plan, and it should also automatically populate the chart down here. 16 right, there we go. Alright, so what I did is Seabucks, so let's execute that one, and then let's get these frequencies up here. So 1075, 164. So 1075. So weird to type it in on the Boeing here. 1075, and the final approach course 164. Let's see if it'll work this time. Set course on your side 164. Set course on your side 164.
164 set.
It worked. But you see how I had to say it twice before I recognized it, so this is the problem with FS2 Crew right now, and it seems to be unique to the 737, and I don't know why, but it seems to, you seem to have to say almost everything twice before FS2 Crew will recognize it, and it seems to be unique to the 737, that the fly-by-wire one works a lot better, the Aerosoft CRJ one works nearly flawlessly. It's the 737 one for some reason, it has trouble listening. So yeah, so we're just doing a straight in from Seabucks. We're probably not even going to go that far out, to be honest. We're probably going to join it somewhere closer in, but at least we got some waypoints to look at. Minimums for this approach, we're going to say Cat 1 minimums today, because it looks like a nice Cab OK day, 615. Alright, set barrel mins to 615. And then before I brief this, we're going to have a look at the NOTAMs here. And park and brake, the one thing I'll ask you too, have you started using SimBrief for planning your flights on the 737, because it's such a fantastic planning tool as well. 16 right makes for such taxi. Yeah, you got to cross 2 runways. It's going to be tough, but you'll make it. If you want to land 16 left, you'd be my guest. We could try to do parallel approaches. I don't know how far behind me you are. I haven't been even watching, honestly, on VATSIM here or anywhere else. You can't be too far behind me, can you? Oh, somehow you're ahead of me. How are you ahead of me? I thought you went like 25 miles south. Somehow you're ahead of me. Somehow you made it in front still. I thought with that extra 25 miles south you were behind me, but cut a few corners. Well, and I sat there, and you might have been busy flying, but I took that deep breath for about 3 minutes before I departed. I just needed to kind of gather my thoughts, because I was about ready to have a little breakdown there after that departure between FS2 Crew and GSX and everybody else. So you haven't flown the 737 yet. Think of buying the PMDG. It's a good airplane. I will say this, like, it's worthwhile. PMDG is not a company that skims on the technology, and they do issue regular updates, so it is not a cheap airplane. Although actually the price now that you're looking at just the 737-800, like it used to be, they combined a bunch of models together and it was more expensive. Like the base was $100, $100 US, I think was the cost of the base version in the previous P3D, and now it's like, what is it, 70 I think for one. 60, 70, so it's come down a little bit in price, so it's very worthwhile, and they do update them regularly. It's not like if bugs are found, they do fix the stuff up. This is actually new down here, so the nav radios recently changed, upgraded here. They used to be like the old style, orange knobs and everything here, and now they've changed into this digital version. So they are changing stuff, they are tweaking stuff. PMDG is definitely, I would say, it's pretty good value for the money. I definitely would say PMDG is not too bad. If you're thinking about it though, if you have never been to the SimBrief website before, simbrief.com, it's a free website, free flight planning website that generates incredibly realistic flight plans. So if you do get the 737, you want to be able to fly realistic flight plans with realistic routings, know how much fuel to truly load to get this airplane going to your destination. The SimBrief flight plans, they're about as close to real world flight plans as you can get. They honestly look very, very, very much like the real world flight plans. The data may not be quite as precise, but in general, SimBrief flight plans, this is generated by SimBrief right here. And so you've got your fuel planning, summary of your flight plan. You've got your route, operational impacts if you want to go up or down 1,000 pounds, or up or down 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet, faster, slower. Loading predictions, waypoint, nav log, all this stuff. Like it's very easy to use as a novice, but then it's very powerful if you become a power user. So what I was going to scroll down to here was the CTAC NOTAMs, just see what's going on here at CTAC. Centerline markings, 16 right, not standard, that's fine. Airport radio altimeter unreliable to touchdown, that's fine. We don't have to worry about 5G in the sim at least. Let's see here, SIDS we're not dealing with. Approaches, so we're looking for 16 right, anything from 16 right. Special authorization, Cat 1, that's the only one. Otherwise, then we're down to our alternate Portland. There's no special NOTAM, so that's actually really good. Can you pull down your cool Boeing viewing panel thing and explain that? Boeing viewing panel. What do you mean, like the HUD? Are you talking about like pulling down the HUD? Because I am not even all that good with the HUD. Honestly, I don't use it because I've never really used it. Yeah, heads-up display, HUD. It basically, like, if you kind of look at it, like, it is basically a replica of your primary flight display for the most part. So you've got your horizon. You've got your horizon here. You've got your airspeed on the left, so there's your airspeed, your Mach number, just like the actual PFD there, actual Mach number, your target Mach number, and then over on the right you've got your target, your actual altitude, you've got your vertical speed here. You know, you've got your bank angle and everything. Here's your wind up there. This is actually your vector. This is your flight path vector. So the dot is the target, I want to say. I don't even use it. The dot is the target, and then this is the airplane. So we're not flying straight ahead. We're actually flying over here. The wind is actually pushing us this way as we're flying. You can see the wind's coming from the left, so it's pushing us. So this is where we're actually going. So that flight path vector is where the airplane's actually going to end up. It's perfectly on the horizon, so we're not gaining and losing altitude, but it's off to the right from where we are right now because we're getting blown over that way. Down here at the bottom, you've got basically the HSI. You've got the I can't really give it a better background, but you've got ILS 1 kind of tuned up right now. Course is 164, so it's already got the inbound course already in there. Yeah, the idea is it's mostly for use on final, so you can be looking outside, you can see the runway, and you can see all the parameters without going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up the whole time. Hence the word heads-up display. Your heads are up, your eyeballs are outside, you're watching what's going on outside. There's setup process to this. I've never really used a HUD, so I don't even really think about it. I fly the old-fashioned way. I fly looking out the window and looking down at the instruments in front of me. Well, I mean, this is the thing. It's glass. It's projected on glass. It's pretty bright. Like, you definitely can see it. It's probably a little harder to see on stream than it actually is. Like, yeah, it's a little bit hard to see this number, but like for me, it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. It's 252, 253 knots, 36,000 feet. I think it's just again the codec, the streaming codec, kind of dumbs down the contrast a little bit here. But yeah, there's setup you're supposed to do with the HUD too to tell it what runway you're on, how long the runway is, and things like that, so it can actually display the runway on here. But I honestly don't know too much about it. I don't want to mess around with it too much. I'd have to read up on it because I've never really used a HUD in real life, so it's kind of a new idea to me. It's not something I'm familiar with. It is useful though, and like if you're really doing like an approach down to minimums, especially because you're single pilot, like in the sim, it's really useful in the sim because you're single pilot. You know, you have to monitor your own pilot monitoring. You have to monitor your parameters while you're on the approach. So you know you're looking outside to try and spot the lights at minimums. It's good to have this information still in front of you. This is the speed and the altitude and everything right in front of you. You know, without even having to look down at the airplane, because you want to have your eyes outside, but you still want to make sure it is flying at the appropriate speed, is maintaining the appropriate speed. You want to see when the actual minimums come up, and if you don't see anything, around we go. But yeah, it's a very sensible piece of equipment. It's just something I'm not comfortable with. I'm not familiar with it, so I don't really use it too much. All right, so let me see if I can make this work now. You have control.
I have control.
Are you ready for the approach briefing?
Go ahead.
All right. And let's just look down here. We got about 100 miles to our top of descent point, so we still got some time here. I'm watching some YouTube videos of people setting up the 737 takeoff, and I think the most confusing would be the FMS setup, understanding what is entered on the right side, left side, etc. You know what? Let me do this approach briefing, and then we can talk about it a little more. Maybe I can give you some hints that might help you out a little bit, just some smaller kind of general guidelines. All right, so we are planning initially today the Hawks 7 arrival into Seattle. Hawk 7 RNAV arrival into Seattle. This is on plate 10-2 Charlie. DDR GPS radar required RNAV 1 for non-RNP. Landing 16 center. Expect radar vectors final approach course. Yeah, so we're going to say we're non-RNP. We're just going to expect the vectors. Keep it easy as an ILS. Hawk 7 arrival. Speed restriction. Turbojet aircraft descend via Mach number until intercepting 280 knots. Maintain 280 knots until slowed by the star. So let's do that right now. So because it's got economy descent, it's got a certain Mach number and a speed target of 250. So we're going to manually set that to 280. So it will accelerate to 280 to meet the restrictions on the star. I can't do that. I can't do that, really? Ah, you suck. Every other aircraft I've ever flown, you can manually change these descent speeds. Alright, we'll just have to manually do it then. Can we not do it? Yeah, there we go. We can change that. Alright, so 280, there it is. So now it's going to plan the descent based on descending at 280 knots. It's thinking, and the top and drop will pop in here when it's done thinking. There it is. Alright, so we passed Lakeview a while ago. We passed Blitz. We just passed Usley, and we're on our way to Battleground. At or above 240, Patera at or above 220, Krieg, and then Hawks 270 knots above 12,000, Line, Pikes, Line, then Pikes at 250 knots between 15 and 12, 250 between 12 and 15, Kofei, Breve 250 between 10 and 11, Nets at 230 knots at or above 8,000, K-West, at or above 7,000, and then last but not least, Fashion at 6,000, 210 knots, 210, 6,000, and we keep this vector 344 track until we are set up to come around for an ILS runway 16 right. Nothing else special on here. There's a lost comm procedure down here. There's an explanation of the routing, but we just read it off there, so it's fine. Planning today the ILS 16 right in Seattle, Washington, SeaTac, 21-3. Loc 110.75 and 164, so let's just verify that I did put those in correctly. 10.75, both sides, 164. The final approach course is in on both sides. Perfect. The glide slope at Finca, 1900. There it is, Finca, 1900. And the Cat 1 minimums, we set 615, and I remember setting 615, and it's right there. just visible there. Touchdown zone at 415. The MSA is highest east of the field, 6,400 feet, because we got mountains to the east of the field. So if anything really goes wrong, turning west is better to keep us away from terrain. Missed approach is climb to 900 feet, then climb heading 195 outbound on the SeaTac Seattle VOR radial 210 to the TC intersection at 3 DME at or below 2,000. So initially we can only go to 2,000, and then climb to 5,000 outbound on the Seattle radial to the Zurley intersection. So initially TC 2,000 is all we can do once past TC 5,000. So we'll set 2,000 for the initial missed approach altitude. DMA radars required simultaneous approaches authorized with 16 left and center. Simultaneous operations require use of vertical guidance. Maintain last assigned altitude until established on glide slope. And VGSI and ILS glide path not coincident. We'll have PAPIs on the right, ALSF2 lighting system. It's default scenery, but we should still have most of this stuff here. And as you said, just a long taxi in. It's not really that long at the end of the day. Yes, we got to cross 2 other runways, but it's not like it's a huge long taxi. It might be 4 minutes instead of 2 minutes. We'll take the convenient left turn off the runway. I would expect we're probably going to make Papa, maybe November, but probably Papa. We'll take Papa all the way across. We're going to get a gate here as well, so let me just get a gate really quickly here for a flight from Burbank to Seattle. Where would we go gate-wise? We find an Alaska flight from Burbank to Seattle here and get a realistic gate assignment here. And flight aware just crashed. Oh, there it is. Alright, on the way. We have one on the way right now to 737. He's about where we are. It's actually surprisingly accurate. He's going to gate November 9er. So let's see if we can find, let's just bring up again our charts for Seattle. Neat shortcut actually I learned here is that you can just click on the airport name to bring up the chart list for that airport. That's kind of neat. Parking gates, coordinates, ramp info, nope, not that one, not that one, that one. November 9er. So here we are, right here on the north satellite, hence the N. So we're going to go on the north satellite. So if we come across on Papa, it's a bit of a long taxi. November might work better if we can do that. So anyways, that's where we're going, is gate November 9er when we get there. So let's put it on auto brake 2 charts. Terrain, obviously an issue for Seattle. I've got terrain up right now. It's mostly to the east of the airport, so as long as we stay with the west downwind, don't go past the airport too much to the east, we should not have too much of an issue with terrain. We will have terrain mode up to detect that. Operational, no NOTAMs that affect our arrival, no MELs in the aircraft, everything's functional. And fuel, so we need 5,000 to go down to Portland, and our progress page is showing we're landing with 8.6, so we got 3.6 extra. So we could definitely do a go around, come back and try it a second time if we had to. Alright, so that's it for my approach briefing. Any questions?
No questions.
I have control. Yeah, I mean, flying an airplane is not an easy task per se. It takes a lot of time, a lot of background knowledge, so don't, yeah, we know the IRS. So don't feel bad if it takes you kind of a long time to kind of get the hang of things. There's lots of stuff to think about. Like, it's a crazy thing about pilots is the number of different disciplines of information you've got to be very versatile in. You've got to be very versatile in navigation, communication, sort of, systems knowledge of your aircraft, operational rules, company rules. Like, it's just so many levels of rules and everything. It's a lot to get into. So I mean, if you can get a 737 and get it to the runway and airborne, on your own without necessarily step by stepping through a tutorial, but when you learn it a little bit, I'll show you what I've got here. Where do I have it here? Sorry, just give me 1 second. Let me find my 737 folder here. I've got folders for all my different airplanes because I got so many different airplanes with documents. So when I was first learning the 737, because I never flew the 737, so it was a lot for me to learn in the beginning as well. It absolutely was. Sorry, I'm just grabbing this here. There we are. Okay. This is what I wrote out. So this is my sheet. 1, 2, 3. That is the whole kind of step-by-step operating procedure that I wrote out for the 737. Starting with electrical power-up, preliminary pre-flight. What else have I got here? CDU pre-flight, so setting up the CDU. The whole FO pre-flight procedure, like it's almost an entire column of just the FO's flight setup. Once you get flying, it actually gets a lot easier. I mean, this is all to before start. This is before start down here, start before taxi. Like, by the time you get to the second page, halfway through the second page before you can start, like, this is takeoff, and then this is all the in-flight and landing stuff. So, but I went through the manual. I literally went step by step. I kind of created a point for each of those steps to sort of remind me, because it's a lot that's going on in that airplane. It absolutely is. In terms of the CDU, yeah, there's kind of a lot going on, but the nice thing about the Boeing CDU is it steps you through the setup process really well. So what it will do that I find is very useful is you'll start off on the init page. So when you first boot it up, you'll be on the ident page here. So you'll just verify that everything's correct. You just want to make sure that you've got the right database, the right model number. It's a 737-800. They haven't loaded the wrong database in the sim. It should never theoretically happen, but can't hurt to check it. Nope. I bumped my trim wheel. That was me. I bumped my trim wheel. And then, of course, if you use an AirAct database, make sure that it's up to date. Position in it is pretty straightforward. You're going to have a bunch of blank boxes here, and that's just basically the IRS, is the inertial reference system, wants to know where you are right now, so it knows to initialize itself in the correct place. So you'll just simply go to the second page of position in it, and these won't be populated, but the GPS, after you've been powered up for about 2 or 3 minutes, will figure out where you are. You can just click those to copy and paste the GPS position and tell the IRS to align itself to wherever the GPS thinks it is. So the GPS is kind of where we get our position information from, but the IRS it remembers it, and using accelerometers and everything tracks where we are as we're going, so that if we lose the GPS for any length of time, we're not SOL. The airplane will still know where it is, where it's flying to. So you have to initialize those, and once you've done that, the key to the Boeing FMS pretty much is that the 6R button almost always takes you to the next step. So once you've done your position initialization, you put the numbers in there and it starts initializing itself. You go to the route page, 6R button here, always kind of leads you to the next one. On the route page, the left is how you're getting there, and the right is where you're going. So via and to. Via is how I'm getting there, to is where I'm going. So right now we're going via, we started at Lakeview, we're doing the Hawk 7 arrival 16 Bravo version until we get to Vector Leg. Then we have a direct to Seabucks, then we have an approach transition to Bugney, we have the ILS 16 right to runway 16 right. So when you're doing this, if you're going direct somewhere, you just drop it in the right. This is the point you're going to. This is how you're going to get there. So if you're doing an airway, if you're doing like Jet 500 or something like that, you put in J500, you drop it on the left side. That's your airways, that's your arrivals, your departures, everything there. Everything on the right side of the route page is the actual point where you're getting to. So I'm taking Jet 500 until I get to the Thunder Bay VOR or something like that. So yeah, this is your via, and the hint's right there at the top. Via. How am I getting to that point? How am I getting there? Via, and then this is where I'm going to. And that's basically how you'll set up the route page. The other thing is you'll have departure and arrivals. So you'll press the departure button initially, and you'll set up your departure. So departure from Burbank, we're going to do departure Burbank. You're going to pick your runway. You're going to pick your SID from your flight plan. And then arrivals, likewise, you're going to say Seattle arrivals. We're going to pick our star. You're going to pick your approach. It'll give you the transitions. How do I know the route's direct or non-direct? Well, and that's why you've got to kind of have a flight plan. Yeah, simbrief.com. Thank you, Squibbly. Yeah, so I'll show you what the route we just did here, and because it's a pretty simple route here. So, but this is SimBrief. SimBrief will always kind of offer you a route. You can always change it to something else if you want, but it'll offer you a route. The route SimBrief picks are based on either other users of SimBrief have already used this route, or real-world flights have used this route. So SimBrief has access to a database of real-world flights, and will look at flights that have been filed in the real world, and will offer you one of those. Or it'll generate a route for you. It'll use a route generator to generate a route if it can't find a real world or a SimBrief route that already matches it. So here's the route we've got here. K Burbank to KSEA. It was pretty simple. We did the Oros 2 departure. So usually anything that ends in a number, that's 5 letters and then ends in a number, or maybe it might be 3 letters ends in a number, is a star, as a SID or a star, is a departure and arrival procedure. And then fixes usually have either 5 letters or 3 letters. So we did the Oros 2 departure. We went as far as the Castro intersection, CSTRO. So we do departure. We would have selected our departure runway. This is said 08 for Burbank, departure 08. We would have said Oros 2 departure. We would have said Castro transition, insert. And that would have gone and put into our FMS. It would have said on the route page, it would have said Oros 2, and it would have gone as far as Castro. And then it have a couple of blank lines after that. Sorry, I'll bring this back up here. And then, so DCT stands for direct. So Castro direct shimmer. So don't put in any airways, just simply type in shimmer, put it on the right-hand side on the next airway. Again, direct Lakeview. There's no airways on this route at all here, so it's not a good example. But again, so you type in shimmer, you put it on the next empty line, and it would go direct there. And you even see on the left, you'll see it'll say direct, so you'll know it's got it figured out correctly. And then Lakeview direct was the next one, so from shimmer direct to Lakeview. So I typed in LKV, I put it over here on the right on the next free line, it said direct to LKV. And then after that is the Hawk 7 arrival already, so it's a pretty simple flight plan. So then I went into the departure arrival page, and for KSEA here, I picked out arrivals, and I picked out Hawks 27, and I picked out my approach that I wanted, the ILS 16 right, and I put that all in there on the route page, and I ended up with it looking something like this. And now it's yelling at me to start down, so just give me a second here while we make sure we don't miss this descent here. Oops, wrong way. So because there's no ATC online, I'm going to go all the way to the bottom altitude on the star. So if you remember that, at the end of the star, it was 6,000 feet. And because we're in VNAV mode, we're still in VNAV path. As soon as we hit this green little top of descent circle here, it's going to start down on its own. But yeah, so there's Lakeview, LKV, and the Hawk 7. So via Lakeview and the Hawk 7, it's going to take us all the way to the vector leg at the end. And if I look at the individual legs, you'll see all the waypoints here. Bateg, Patera, Greek, Hawks Line, and all these things all the way until it gets to vector leg. So that's how you set up the route page. It's a little intimidating at first once you kind of get the feel of the logic of it. Via, this is how we're getting there. This is the how. This is the point we're going to. And yeah, so the key is to kind of get some realistic flight planning information too. So simbrief.com. Wow, and Park and Break. You'll be happy to know that I have archived all of my streams onto my YouTube channel. So if you go over on the YouTube channel, you'll see all these pilot's life streams. And it hasn't always been flying the 737, but I have flown the 737 the last 3 streams, I guess. Is this an episode 4? I think it's episode 4. The last 3 streams, so you can go ahead and kind of watch the setup of a bunch of those. The nice thing is you go on YouTube, you see it, you can scroll through. I've kind of labeled some sort of where everything is, and I generally am kind of explaining stuff as I go along because I still kind of look at a lot of my audience. Squibbly, I know you know what you're doing, but I look at a lot of my audience as not necessarily knowing how a lot of these things work. So I kind of go through it. You can kind of follow along, so you can definitely check out the other videos, and please, if you go check in my YouTube videos, there should be, most of them should have a link to my Discord. You can go ahead and post a question in there. I don't check it every single day. I'm not a huge Discord person, but yeah. Oh yeah, we've been flying for a long time, my friend. We have been flying. I've been doing a pilot's life for like 4 years now, I think. It's been ridiculous. And when you start to add up the number of hours that I have put into a pilot's life that I've uploaded to YouTube, I have probably uploaded probably a couple hundred hours worth of video content to YouTube at this point. Like, it's ridiculous. I don't know why. It's one of those things where, hey, kind of look at your body of work into the end of your life. You're like, wow, I may have wasted a good portion of my life here. But I do it for fun. This is fun. Like, different people have different hobbies, and people spend a lot of money and time on their different hobbies. This is my hobby. This is what I do for fun. And yeah, I look at what some people spend on their hobbies. I don't spend money on hobbies compared to what some people. We had a guy sitting in the jump seat just yesterday. Super nice guy, senior captain, and his hobby now is snowmobiling. And he lives out in Alberta, so he does snowmobiling out there. And he's just showing us the pictures, and it's absolutely gorgeous. But like, I think of the amount of money he's probably spent on this hobby too. Like the machine alone, the machine alone costs what a car costs. If you're getting a good machine, and he's got because he does like a lot of backcountry snowmobiling, he's got survival equipment. He always carries a survival pack with him. He's taken courses on backcountry survival and avalanche survival, and he's showing us some pictures of the stuff. And it's just, whatever hobby you like, you're going to end up spending way too much money on it. And I read that too. Running Discord on your PC lowers your frame rate on the NVIDIA GPU. I read that there's a little something going on. I don't run Discord. I use the web app for Discord, and I only use it when I need it. It's not one of those things I have running constantly in the tray because I have mixed emotions about Discord. I don't mind kind of having my own little kind of channel with it, but like I'm kind of a member of a lot of different servers, and I really, as a communication medium, it sucks. It sucks big time. It really does. There's part of me that's one day maybe I'm thinking I might prefer like a forum, because the thing about Discord I find is it's so chaotic. If you're not in there every minute of every day, you lose track of what's going on very quickly, and it's absolute chaos. It's a horrible communication medium, especially asynchronous communication, not in real time, where like you're posting a message for someone to see later. Terrible for that kind of communication. I find it's because it's so disorganized. It's so like train of thought, and it's fine if you're there 24/7 and you're tuned into the Discord 24/7. But if you're not there 24/7, it's a nightmare to try and keep up with it. It kind of takes the worst aspects of Facebook and kind of blends it with like a forum type of format. I'm not a big fan of Discord in a lot of ways. It's okay. Like, there's not a whole lot going on my service. I keep track of it. If it ever got too busy, I'd probably shut it down because I don't like Discord a lot. It's so chaotic. It's so bad for keeping track of things. Disorganized. I think it's probably my old brain. I'm old-fashioned. I love to go to a forum system. A forum system is so much more organized and easier to keep track of what's going on in it. You can still have notifications and you can still have conversations, but it's just organized. Disorganized chaos is the number one description of Discord as far as I'm concerned. But because I don't have a whole lot of other ways of communicating with people, because I hate Facebook now. I hate Facebook with a passion, and I've stopped basically logging into Facebook altogether. Communications become tougher if you try to avoid the supposed, I guess, major social media networks. I don't even like Twitter. I hated Twitter from the beginning. I thought I saw the dumbing down of society coming from Twitter a long time ago. I'm like, really, 140 characters? You can't make an intelligent statement in 140 characters in most cases. So you're just really you're pushing people to just say stupid things. That was my first reaction to Twitter when I started reading about it. I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of, and I can't believe it's still going. Who knows? Let's not even go open that. Volantis resource hog as well. Yeah, a lot of these things are resource hogs. Track IR can be a resource hog at times. It's not so bad if I'm sitting still, but the second I start moving and it starts trying to make recalculations of where my head is looking, it's not a resource hog. But again, 2-3%. My streaming software is only using about 2% right now, which is not bad. but 2.5%. But you just add all these things up, all these little things start to add up after a while. I use SimTool Get Pro, and that can be a hog as well at times. It's gotten better, and if you don't have the live map up, it's not so bad. But even that can, again, 2% here, 2% there. All of a sudden, all these apps you're running simultaneously with your sim, you're down 10-20% of your processor power to all these simultaneous apps. Yeah, exactly. You got to pick and choose what you want to run. Like, I hate to say it, but I often turn off my antivirus when I'm not when I'm running the sim, but usually when I'm running the sim and the stream at the same time. And I'll usually turn off the antivirus to sort of get that compromise. Because the other thing too is I do have an active weekly scan of my sim folders. So I don't scan my sim folders in real time, but I have them on a scheduled scan to make sure that nothing I downloaded that's got anything sitting in it. But yeah, I exclude all the sim folders from real-time scanning of the antivirus, because sim is opening and closing so many files constantly that if you were to let the antivirus look at every single file as the sim opened and closed it, it would just, you can chalk up another 20% to your performance right there. And not only that, but when the antivirus is checking these things, scanning them before it opens them for you, it won't let anything else access it. So the sim will pause sometimes or stutter while it's waiting, trying to access this file, and waiting for permission to access it while the scan is happening in real time. All right, well, Parking Break, thanks so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing, and good luck if you have questions. I am not a Boeing 737 expert, but I've got a fair number of hours in the sim. I got a couple hundred hours probably in the sim flying the 737, so I will do my best. I've read a good portion of the FCOM, so I have read the documents. I have read the manuals and try to fly to the manuals. I won't claim I do it perfectly by any means, but yeah, if you've got questions, please ask. I am an A320 expert. Well, no, I am not an expert. I am trained. I am competent on the A320, my friend. I am not an expert. I'm getting there. I am definitely getting there. But I am not an A320 expert by any means. I still sit there a lot of the time and be like, I've never seen that before. That's new. I haven't seen that. Didn't know that. Yeah, I'm still, and yeah, and it's getting to that point now where we're kind of getting in the routine, but now you get sort of the things that are a little bit outside the routine, like we do 95% ILS approaches. You get an RNAV approach, like, I haven't done this in a while. Hold on, let me just pull out the manual and just double check a few things on this, because we got a quick reference manual. I'm like, let me just pull out the quick reference manual and just recheck some things, because I haven't done an RNAV approach in a while. I haven't done a phi lambda approach in a while. The bar is low. Well, hopefully I can teach you a few things about the 320 over time. I would like to stream the 320 if I get a new video card one day. No rush, but one day when I get a new video card, I will probably stream the Phoenix for a little while. I'll do some legs in the Phoenix for sure, but I feel like I definitely need to improve the performance of this computer here. All right, so there's the there's the altimeters 2973, and actually I never did this, so descent checklist. Descent checklist.
Descent checklist. Pressurization. Landing altitude is 450 feet. Recall checked. Water brake level 2. The landing data.
VREF 152. Minimums 615 feet set. 615 feet.
VREF 152. Minimums 1075 feet. Approach briefing.
Completed.
Descent checklist complete.
Transition set 2973. Transition set altimeter 2973.
Two 973 set.
Alright, I never set this guy up to do this, so we're going to do flaps 30. Did I put it? Yeah, I did put it in it. No, I didn't. I did not. He did it. I want to do flaps 30. Alright, let's do auto brake 2. Try runway, signal taxi, no gate. Yes, CPU delayed start, that's fine. Threads, terrain is probably a thread there. Not that it matters, because that would just be right on the briefing. 615. I think it was 1900, wasn't it, at the FAF there? I think 1900, perfect. And the final approach altitude, sorry, 1900, missed approach is 2000. There you go. I don't need to run the brief because I did it all myself, but at least it's all in there now. Alright, we're getting down there. Once again, and that did not feel like 2 hours. just like the last flight. It really did not feel like 2 hours. It does feel a little bit like 2 hours right about here. My throat's getting a little parched. Ran out of coffee a good 45 minutes ago, and my flight attendant did not bring me any more, so fine. Be that way. Yeah, but no, I did. Sometimes it's funny how fast these flights go. And the same thing with some of the other flights I did this week. Like, long flights, they didn't feel like long flights. The one where you had the captain sitting in the jump seat and we were chatting the whole way in cruise about all sorts of things. Holy moly, that flight did not. It was 3.5 hours. It did not feel like 3.5 hours, I tell you. It felt like we were in cruise for maybe an hour because we were talking so much. But then the other day I was flying with somebody who was not chatty. Nice guy, but just wasn't really chatty. Didn't say a whole lot. And same length flight, boy did it feel longer. When you're chatting with people and having fun and just, whatever, hey, it makes the flight go so much faster. Yeah, the guy was nice, but he wasn't very chatty. I tried to start a few conversations, didn't really kind of pick up on it. Didn't really chime up on a lot of stuff. And I kind of, towards the end, I finally managed to get him talking about some stuff. I found some stuff. Yeah, I found some topics he wanted to talk about, and then things started to go a little faster, but kind of in the middle there, boy, it got quiet, it got boring. And this is, again, I see this as being a huge problem with the whole concept of single pilot airliners. Is you're doing decent, medium range, long range flying, you're spending hours and hours in cruise with very little to do for the most part. In cruise, you get the cruise altitude, the performance speed is set, the navigation, the route's all set there. You engage nav mode, you just keep on trucking. You just keep on trucking for hours and hours, and you may need to actually do almost nothing to the airplane for hours and hours. You kind of watch stuff, you do fuel checks and waypoint checks and all that, but in terms of actually even touching a knob on the airplane, you may not have to touch anything other than to change the radio for a good several hours. Airplane flies itself. So now imagine doing that and not having anybody to talk to kind of keep your mind at least a little bit occupied. And the nice thing about talking to the guy who's next to you, just like talking to somebody in a car when you're on a long drive, it's like I can still focus on what I'm doing, and the person inside the car, because they're right there with me and is aware of what's going on, they know immediately when to shut up too. They know when I'm doing something. Oh, I see you're doing a fuel check. I'll pause the conversation for 30 seconds, or oh, here comes a radio call. We'll stop the conversation for 30 seconds and we'll pick it right back up where we left off when we're done. But same thing when you're in a car. You try and talk to somebody on the cell phone when you're driving a car. That person has no concept of what your situation is in the car. You're trying to overtake somebody, and you're really focusing on looking around and seeing the traffic, or you're changing lanes, or you're kind of really trying to focus for a second on what's going on around you and make sure you have a good sense of where all the cars are around you. And the person on the cell phone necessarily doesn't know that, so they just keep on chattering away and kind of distracting you. So and it's the same thing, like, oh yeah, we're going to have dispatches and they're going to be able to take over if you pass out or whatever. But it's like, who's going to talk to you? Who's going to talk to you for 3 hours to keep you from falling asleep at the wheel? This is the biggest limits to the idea of single pilot airliners are not necessarily technological, although there is, again, also I watch the way some of these airplanes fly, and without someone sitting there to kind of babysit it a little bit and make sure it's not doing anything stupid, I wouldn't necessarily trust these like, it blows my mind the people who trust self-driving cars to drive down the highway at 10,000 at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, just sleeping, passed out. You're this far from the car next to you that's also moving at 100 kilometers an hour, hoping that you guys are all driving perfectly and nobody's making a mistake and nothing unusual is happening. And
cabin crew, prepare for landing.
Approach checklist.
Approach checklist. Altimeters.
2973 set.
2973 set. Approach checklist complete. 10,000.
Roger. That sort of thing just blows me away because I fly airplanes which are worth a lot more than those Tesla automobiles, where the automation, they're supposedly highly automated airplanes, and the automation has been in development for years and years and years. Tesla's been around for what? Not even 10 years, maybe 10 years they've been developing autopilots. Airbus, the A320 has been in production for 30 something years. They've been developing this autopilot for 30 something years. I still wouldn't fall asleep with it flying. I wouldn't trust it to do everything correctly when I fall asleep. Certainly would trust it to fly and approach and land the airplane. Yes, the auto land is great, but I wouldn't want to trust it without watching it. Trust but verify, without me sitting there watching and making sure the autopilot is doing what it's supposed to do. Yeah. So and this has been in development for 30 years. you know, the idea that the people are trusting this, that their lives, this Tesla autopilot, they're taking, they're sleeping. And it's not just the Tesla autopilot. You also have to trust every other user on the road to not be drunk, to not be half asleep because they didn't sleep enough last night, to just be a competent, skilled driver. It just blows me away, these people that'll bomb down the highway at 100 kilometers an hour and close their eyes and put the seat back and take a nap. Just blows me away because I don't see the automation technology being there yet.
I've gone overcast. I've got a couple other friends that have flying. We've seen about no weather. Clear. I've had clouds the whole way. I've had overcast. It's the forum was light. There's a bit of a weather bug.
Yeah. So then single pilot airliners. Yeah, it's great to have a backup guy on the ground, but then again, we you know, secure transmission security, like I wouldn't want necessarily somebody. I wouldn't want necessarily the radio to be able to take over.
Traffic.
Oh, great. At least he's climbing quickly. I wouldn't want someone to be able to take over my aircraft remotely, because that just screams abuse. That just screams someone hacking into the system and taking control of airplanes remotely. And so, you know, think September 11th, but without having to get the hijacker on the airplane anymore. Hijacker can just be in some hotel room somewhere, hacking into the data stream, taking over an aircraft remotely. That, yeah, there are some technological limitations to the idea of single pilot airliners, but I think the bigger limitations at the end of the day are physiological, societal. How are you going to keep these pilots awake on a night shift without, you know, without somebody to talk to, some stimulating conversation to have from time to time? You really think they're just going to stare straight ahead and stare at these instruments and not talk to anyone for hours except for the occasional traffic controller? Thanks, Microsoft, for these great jumps in the weather here. Seattle traffic, Alaska 14 at 98 on a right downwind, runway 16 right. Yeah, there's a lot of problems with the idea of the self-driving single pilot airplane. Slap arm, that's when your head goes downward for more than 1 minute. Yeah, you could do that, but you're gonna have to do it like every few minutes, and the airline's gonna end up getting sued when the pilot has bruises up the yin yang. Face is gonna be black and blue, bloody by the time they get to the destination. It's a long night. Think of those 8-hour flights to Europe. You know, oh, you're doing a single pilot across the ocean, nothing but the hiss of HF static to listen to for hours on end. Yeah, there's a lot of issues with these ideas. It's great in theory, and you know, I'm not saying don't push the technological envelope, but there's a lot of potential problems with this. You know, just because the technology is ready to do it doesn't mean that we as human beings should be able to do it yet. And I certainly wouldn't trust my life to a drone that's being flown by either a remote pilot or even by an autopilot without a human being intervening in what's going on. Anywho, I guess we should focus on what we're doing here. Alright, so that's the FAF right there, Finca at 1900. And what was the MSA to the west? It was like 3,000 something, was it not? I believe it was 3,000 something. Let's see, to the west is 3,400. So we'll go down to 4,000, and the 4,000 point is CLAC. So at CLAC we should be turning base. So let's go 4,000. Let's go level change. Let's go heading mode, heading cell. There we go, so we got retard, we got heading cell, we got MCP speed at 210, that's fine. And CLAC will turn final here. We've got no terrain showing up here. Okay, we got some visibility here. Well, the cloud deck's not great, but some visibility. And I wonder if GSX finished its reboot. If I start it now, will it work? You'll pardon me if I don't have much faith on this one here. Gate November 9er. Nice. Alaska Airlines, please. Alright, this is actually going to work out pretty well. I'm going to turn base here momentarily. Because we're heading mode.
Okay, thanks. Captain, the cabin is secure.
Go ahead and get C-Bucks and the inbound course of 164. There's the ILS nice and set up. Alright, that's probably close enough. So 160, that'd be about a 0708 heading here.
1011.
Seattle traffic Delta 222 is clear, runway 16 right under November, taxi to the
Flaps
North
1.
Satellite, November,
Speed check.
Tango, Juliet, cross 16 center, hotel 16 left there to North Satellite.
Flaps 1 set.
Oh, there's downtown Seattle. So Boeing Field's going to be right south there. Nice. Looks like the performance is dropping off a little bit, but definitely not as bad as Burbank was there. Wow. Little lag on adding the power there, huh? All told. Alright, since we're at 190, let's just do 190 then. Flaps 5.
Speed check.
Let's go heading 130.
Flaps 5 set.
Let's go ahead and arm approach mode. We got VOR local, light slope armed.
222 clear, 16 center. Kilo now, we're going to cross 16 left on Kilo.
Seattle traffic, Alaska 1498 is joining 14 miles final, runway 16 right. There's the Space Needle right there. Glide slope. Initial missed approach altitude of 2,000 feet is set. Screenshot of that one. Take me away for a second, maybe. There. She is a little bit hesitating right now. What's going on here? Is this streaming or what it is? Because it hasn't been doing this lately, and now it's suddenly started doing this badly. Alright, we're doing okay here. It's definitely terrain off to the east, off to the left there.
Seattle, Delta 222 clear, runway 16.
Oh, you still beat me by a good long shot there.
$1,011.
Yeah, roger. Don't level off 2,000, please. Thank you. We should sync the heading bug up here.
Radio altimeter alive. Cabin crew, take your seats.
Gear down, flaps 15.
Speed check. Gear down. Flaps 15 set.
Speed 160. Boeing Field there. Not too much going on there today.
Final approach fix. The height is checked. Missed approach altitude is set.
Flaps 30.
Speed check.
Landing checklist.
Flaps 30 set.
Landing checklist. Landing checklist. Landing checklist. I give up on you. Alright, landing checklist. Engine start switches are continuous. Speed brake armed. Landing gear down. And flap. Sorry, flaps. Flap 30, green light. Landing checklist complete. You're an idiot sometime, buddy. I don't know what the VNAV is trying to tell me here. I guess maybe it's still level 6,000 because it's telling me I'm 4,700 feet low. Yeah, it must have been level 6,000. Getting a little choppy.
1,000 feet, stable.
Approach. It's not terrible, but it's a little choppy. Let's look at that. She's a little bit dreary. Seattle traffic, Alaska 1498, say 2 mile final runway 16 right. Okay. See, it's a little choppy again. Wondering if it's something I'm running here, if it's a sim. What is using up all this processor power? I was about to start hand flying.
500 feet.
Check my. Toolkit Pro is using a fair bit. Not too much else is using it. What's going on here? It's the FS2 crew.
Approaching minimums.
Alright, autopilot's off.
Minimums.
Landing. Oh my god.
Glide slope.
Slideshow again.
Glide slope.
Something
Glide
I'm running here
slope.
for this stream here.
Glide slope.
But it's not the
Speed breaker.
frame rate in the sim. It's just falling apart on me here. Alright. Just full reverse.
Reverse is normal.
So it wasn't just Burbank. There's something going on with this sim here. Don't seem to get much auto brake either out of this thing here either.
Auto brake disarmed. 60 knots.
And then as soon as is it the 737? Because I haven't noticed this too much in any other airplanes. I wonder if it's the 737. Something is getting choppy here. Wait, I'm awake again. Clean up there. Wow, it's a steep little hill right here.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the conclusion of our
Some power to get up this one here.
Seated with your seatbelts fastened until the captain has turned off the seatbelt sign and the aircraft is parked safely at the gate. This will be your indication it is safe to
Seattle traffic, Alaska 1498 is clear of runway 16 right, crossing 16 center, 16 left into the apron. So we rolled all the way down the runway. There's something going on weird with this airplane too, because when it touches down, like the brakes don't seem to do anything. The auto brake doesn't seem to do anything. We never seem to get much decel. It's just been the last 2 flights. I'm gonna have to try and do some flights on my own. And see if I can figure out what's going on, because something is going on with this airplane. I think it's hitting the performance because you hear, the other thing too is, and I don't know if you guys can hear it that well, but you hear this squeaking of the tires constantly touching the pavement, like as if it's like contact, no contact, contact, no contact as you're rolling out. Maybe that's why the auto brakes are not triggering properly, is because there's no what am I trying to say here? Because there's no contact with the pavement, so the brakes are never triggering, they're never getting any friction and contact, and it seems like until we slow down to a very low speed, it seems like they have intermittent contact with the pavement, so I'm not sure what's going on here. This airplane has been a little bit problematic, which is a shame, because like, for the most part it's good, but yeah, there's some performance issues happening now that were not here before. I don't know what's going on, something's getting worse with this sim. Again. It gets better for a while, then it gets worse again. Seattle traffic, Alaska 1498 is clear of all runways. Alright, let's just make sure all the lights are off. We don't need to turn off lights when we're taxiing, honestly. Just taxi, that's all we need. Start the APU, please. Start the APU. Start the APU. Turn on the APU. Ugh. I think I can leave up on you again here. You're useless. Alright, so we have to go up to November 9, so we have to go past the main terminal to the north satellite. That's on the back side of the north satellite. Hopefully you're parked close to there too, Squiggly. And I mean, the performance on this should not be bad. This is default scenery. This is the default, you know, whatever it's called.
Seattle traffic, Alaska 454 pushing back, 10 Delta Florence to North Ray.
I'm trying to think what it's called. It's Bespoke Airport. It's one of the Bespoke airports. So it's detailed, but it's still default scenery. It's not like fantastically huge levels of detail, so it should not be penalizing my frame rate. So I don't think it was Burbank. And at the end of the day now, I'm starting to think it wasn't Burbank that was causing me the problem. I think there's something going on maybe with the 737.
3 minutes.
Because it hasn't been too bad till now, but it definitely, the last couple flights, it feels like it's really kind of starting to chop up the performance a bit. Or maybe it's just my, maybe it's just simply my video card is finally starting to get ready to give up the ghost. It has put a lot of hours into Flight Simulator. Steam has kept track of it, and I used it for years with P3D before this, but Steam has kept track of it, and I've done like 1,800 hours on Steam, I think, playing with the Flight Simulator or something ridiculous like that. So it could be that my video card really truly is on its way out. Alright, so November 9. There, I see you. It looks like you're parked in November 10, November 11, so let's head over to November 9, where in theory, ground crew should be waiting for me. I have very little faith that GSX is going to work. I don't even see anybody. Why are we going to November 9? There's not even like a jet bridge there. I don't even see jet bridges there. Screw that. Oh, you know what's weird? Is that my marshaller's over here, not at the right gate. That's not November 9, according to the scenery, but I see my marshallers. Really? Did the tires pop now? Again? You gotta be freaking kidding me. There's something weird about this airplane now and landing on this airplane. Because there's no way that landing melted those brakes. There's something wacky going on with the FS2 crew, with the PMDG 737 here. I'm all but convinced at this point. Alright, so this is not the right gate at all, but since our marshaller's here, and there is a jet bridge, which is nice, we're going to use this one. Okay, you're supposed to turn off the taxi light when I say lights and doors, buddy. Oh man, oh man. Watch GSX crash happening with the Marshall now. Alright, it's on. Generators on the buses. Yep, we know. We'll submit that in a second. Alright, so that's off there. And, probably hit that by mistake. Funny how the end of the jet bridge is not level though. We'll just tap a slight include floor there for people to walk out on. It's fine. Shutdown checklist. Shutdown checklist. You're not gonna do it, are you? Ugh. You're worse than useless sometimes, FS2 crew. Alright, fine. Shutdown checklist. Fuel pumps. Off. Probe heat. Off. Hydraulic pumps. Set. Flaps. up, parking brake, set, engine start levers cut off, weather radar is off, shutdown checklist is complete. Okay, so we're done. Not the best live stream I ever did, and definitely more than a little frustrating, just with a number of software issues. Yeah, it was nice to fly, and thank you for being here. Thank you for being patient with me as I tried not to lose my cool on FS2 Crew, GSX, and everything else with this. And I don't know what's going on with the frame rates lately too. And now it's fine. It's buttery smooth again. So there's something going on with this. I haven't noticed in too many other airplanes either. So I'm beginning to think it's the 737 or maybe the combination of the 737 and a few other things. But I'm parked right where you marshaled me in. I don't know what else you want from me.
You are currently parked at the wrong parking position.
Literally, that's what I had to do. I had to move forward another 3 feet. Okay. Trying to just calm, zen, not even worry about the setting marker. It's just not even worth it sometimes. Yeah, and there goes GSX now. Yeah, I moved, and it's completely unable to do anything.
The boarding requested.
Boarding requested, thank you. Alright, anywho. It's going to do some deboarding. That Alaska's going to leave. Squibbly, you're gone. And yeah, we are done for the day anyways, so that was fun in flight anyways. Once we got going, we got to have some nice chatting there. That was good fun. It was a little frustrating getting going there. I need to almost take a moment just to calm myself down, because that was just not ideal, to say the least. There was a lot of issues with that departure, software issues. I'm going to have to run all my updaters now because there's way too many updaters to run. That's the other thing too. There's way too many updaters I got to keep running now. Every time the new version of Sim comes out, you got to update your FS2 crew, you got to update your GSX, you got to update everything, you got to update your PMDG 737. There's something weird going on with this airplane. I'm going to have to do some experimental flights before I take this on another stream, because there's something going on with the way this airplane touches down. It kills the performance for the first little while, and then it seems to, on the rollout, it seems to not know that we're on the ground half the time, and the brakes don't work. Brakes don't seem to do much. The reverse thrust does something, but the brakes don't seem to work. Then all of a sudden they're connected and lock up, and the tires all. It's strange. Strange, frustrating. I'm gonna try and go about the rest of my day without thinking about it. So, anyways, that's it for us for today, guys. I certainly hope you had fun. You know, aside from the frustration, it was still fun. I still enjoyed myself. We are up for another leg whenever I have a chance. Hopefully in about a week's time, we're going to go from Seattle, SeaTac, down to LAX. So I think what we'll do is we'll grab the 737-700 for the next one, just to change it up a little bit. It's not that different, but something a little bit different. And we'll fly from Los Angeles down to SeaTac, from SeaTac down to Los Angeles. And after that, we continue on down to Guadalajara, and then back through Los Angeles, back to, I think, Portland again. So we've got quite a few more legs left. We've got some longer legs coming up, so hopefully we'll find some more stuff to talk about next time. In the meantime, it was very nice flying with you guys. It was very nice spending a Sunday morning with you. And stay tuned to the channel for so you get notified about when the next stream's happening. Also, when the next VATSIM ATC stream has happening. I did manage to get one done this past week, and that was, again, it was lots of fun. It wasn't really not that busy. It could have been busier. I kind of wish it was busier, but I mean, that's okay. Stuff happens. But yeah, we'll try to start getting these VATSIM streams in a little more regularly if we can find the time, find the place to make it work, and then to get some good traffic going, we'll get a stream going. But in the meantime, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend out there for however long it lasts, and stay warm wherever you are. Hopefully, we will see you guys all out there on the VATSIM skies real soon. Take care.